Let's come to order. Today is July the 11th with the Civic Center for our first budget workshop. Please call the roll.
Ms. Blackburn, Ms. Albrecht.
Here.
Mayor Bailey.
Here.
Mr. Wallace. Here. Mr. Putnam.
Here. Are you going to lead the discussion, or are you going to lead it, Mel?
Mr. Welly has volunteered to take the bull by the horns and kind of lead you through his figures.
Okay.
Oh boy. I'm assuming we'll do this like last year. Start at the top, work our way back, answer questions as we go. Work for everybody?
Sure.
All right. We'll start with revenue. First tab 1, revenue. If you're looking at the top, it's the ad valorem taxes. That number is soft, of course, and not a solid number because that's just to make it balanced for what's presented. So that'll change.
Much, we just started.
The local option gas tax is anticipated to go up $3,000 this year. That estimate was released on Friday. The electric franchise fees is just an estimate over previous years. Same with franchise fees, utility tax. Down to communication service tax. That estimate has not been released by the state yet, so I put 50,000 because it should be close to that. They're releasing estimates again this week, so that could change. Professional occupational licenses, 12,000, the usual. Fishing licenses, you'll see back to zero as we no longer do that. We don't sell the licenses anymore, so I didn't budget any money for them.
Back up one, please. Professional and
Occupational,
yep. We're seeing a decline in that.
12,000, same as last year. You mean to date?
Yeah, a serious decline today.
It's because they're paid in September.
It's September, not October.
Yeah, a lot of them come in early.
Okay.
So September, that's just the ones that came in after the new year last year.
Okay.
Golf cart permits, 2,500. I think we're gonna surpass that number this year, but we are mid-season. Building permits. Building permits are a shot in the dark. I never know what to budget for. You'll see we're way over that already this year. Or double that. But we don't know what that's gonna do next year. So 7,500 is 1,000 more than I budgeted last year, but it's just a number we can change. If you think it'll be more, I don't care.
And that goes right into the general fund?
Correct.
Okay.
Boat launch fees, we budgeted 10,000 this year. We're at 15 already. I think 20 is a fair number. I think that would be a good place to go, so I doubled that to 20. We don't have a FERDAP grant budgeted. I think we're gonna possibly have some next year, but I'm not sure.
And that's just a pass-through anyway.
Yeah, it's a pass-through.
We did apply for one.
We haven't got an answer, did we?
We got the positive yes.
So I should put
So we'll probably
50,000.
put the 50 in there.
That's for the Parker Park?
Parka Park. I'm sorry, that is Parka Park. That's the splash pad, yes ma'am.
Okay.
We have two of those. One for the municipal park.
This year.
Yeah. If we get it done this year.
Yeah. We're gonna change that to 50. It's not gonna affect anything overall. It's gonna be a pass-through. It'll just increase in expense on the park
I
side.
think that's a good point though, the municipal park FERDAP grant we haven't really messed with yet, pending city hall, so you might want to put.
Make it 100?
Yes, sir.
We can ask for an extension of that because we probably won't be ready by the
I think
end
we
of
get 2
September.
years.
Yeah, I think,
2 years.
I think it's a
Okay.
pretty, yeah.
Then we have FEMA and state money, not foreseeing the weather. I'm not budgeting anything. State grant for sand bypass system, that's an old one that probably can be removed. That was put in here in 2009 or 8, whenever that happened, that revenue item was placed. MBARA, I haven't heard from them yet, what they're applying for and what the anticipated plan is for next year. But that again is the one that we usually amend every year when they find out, because that's a pass-through as well.
Well, wasn't this year 1.2?
Yeah. We haven't expended, or we haven't received any of it yet.
Wait a minute, say that again? What's the 1.2?
MBARA?
Oh, sorry.
I don't see
I'm sorry.
anything for 16 on here.
Nope, haven't amended it. Haven't received any. USDA that was part of the water project, that's an old one. Parks and Rec impact fees. This number is 0 because this is where we transfer the money in. If we decide there's some projects we're going to do through Parks and Rec impact fees, that's where it'll go. We didn't budget anything to spend, so when the time comes, depending where we get with Parker Park this year, that number could change for next year. But again, that's a pass through.
When we do impact fees, when somebody builds a house, we don't have any Park and Rec impact fees that we collect?
We do, but they're in a dedicated account. They're not in the general fund. This is like the boat ramp when we talk about we have to transfer into expend them. That's what this is. We're
Oh,
not
okay, so
budgeting.
I thought impact fees were always a special,
They are. But when we spend them, we need to transfer money out of them into the general fund to spend it out.
okay, so there's a fund just for Park and Rec?
Correct, dedicated separate entirely. Own checking account.
And right now, it's about $33,000 in it because we took $100,000 out of it and dedicated to the Parker Park.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry I missed a few minutes, everybody, I'm sorry about that. So when you're talking, this first page is revenue, this is in the general fund revenue?
This is revenue
So that's
that we
why you
spend.
don't have, okay, got it.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Next one down is fire and ESU impact fees. I don't know why I budgeted that in here. It's on your capital list. It's the request from that department to be spent out of there. So there is a dollar amount there that'll fund the requests, but it can go away if we don't approve those requests. It's just in there for now. Police impact fees, again, nothing is budgeted there yet because we don't know if we're going to use any of that. FDLE grant and law enforcement grant, we'll find out if we get one. I'm not budgeting for one. Same with the Ed Burn grant. The FDLE grant, if we go back one, we've gotten this before. It was $1,000. The headache it is to administer isn't worth the $1,000, so we didn't apply this year.
I spent about $8,000 in my time, basically on duty.
Working
I
on
get
it.
$1,000.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Okay.
State revenue sharing. This is money that comes from the state of Florida. This is a complicated formula that allocates, and that estimate has not been released yet. So I budgeted the same as last year. Should be released this week.
And hopefully that should be a little bit more, right, Mel, because of all of we had to change something with the state. Didn't you work on something like that?
Right, a lot of the revenue that we should have gotten was because people who lived in Mexico Beach had a Port St. Joe address.
Right.
And got a portion to them. So that's all been taken care of now. Everything is in Mexico Beach is ours.
Okay, and let me throw something else at you. I know this may not be the right time, but before I forget while I'm thinking about it. On my Verizon bill, Citizen brought this to my attention. On my Verizon bill, I actually have two. I have one for Chip and one for me. One has the communication service tax going to Bay County, and one has it coming to Mexico Beach. So sounds to me like it's the same thing with the state revenue sharing, is that because of the zip code that's recorded, we're losing some of that tax. So I don't know if we can address that as a whole, like you did with the state revenue sharing to Verizon, or if each individual homeowner needs to call?
That one's really complex. I mean, I have 3 cell phones on my bill. My grandmother's in Minnesota, mine, and then Betsy's are all in one. All 3 of them come to Mexico Beach, and Grandma's not here. So I don't know how that's calculated. Actually, my cell phone goes to Gulf County, but the other 2 are Bay County. Has to do something with where you set it up and where your account is through and what your billing address is. It's weird. I don't know why.
It is weird. So I'll call Verizon, and that's all with Verizon, right?
Yeah, Verizon, yeah.
Yeah, all right, I'll call it and see about that. It's not like it's a huge amount, but every dollar counts, right?
Fuel tax refund, who knows if we'll get one. Haven't gotten one in 2 years.
We would get that from Bay County,
The state.
the state,
Yeah.
and we don't know why we haven't gotten it.
I do not.
What is that?
It's usually the percentage of tax you pay for the municipal fuel pumps. But
Oh,
we
for
haven't
the
yet.
municipal fuel pumps?
Then the mobile home licenses, 800. It's immaterial, small, so I don't even, it's just there. Beverage tax, this is your liquor licenses. Half-cent sales tax, this number also hasn't been released by the state, but If it's anything like the rest, I expect it to be about a $2,000 increase. I left it the same, but the estimates we are getting back are showing about $2,000 on all our state revenues. Half-cent sales tax, just to give you a background on how this works. There's a half-cent sales tax in Bay County, of course, that you pay on everything. It all goes into a pot and gets divided out by county by population percentage. So all the sales tax Mexico Beach generates doesn't necessarily come back to Mexico Beach. So we've talked about this at the office before. Well, is it fair or is it not fair? I think we actually probably do better with places like Pier Park being in our county, that goes into that pool as well. But it's proportionally delegated by population. Anybody have a question on that one?
So is there any way to see what we actually collect and the percentage that we receive? Is that?
I'm sure there's a way. I don't
Okay.
see it. I just get a monthly check based on the allocation. Impact fees and Bay County contribution. The Bay County contribution is going to be what we use for Parker Park, so that if we don't get that this year, we'll have to put that in.
No, let's say that again.
The Bay County contribution.
If we don't get it this
If we don't get the Parker Park stuff done and passed through before the end of the
Then
year,
we have to,
Oh, before the end of October,
September.
the end of September. Oh, okay.
before we go on to the next page, the municipal fuel tax refund, is there any way we can contact the state and say, where is it?
Yep.
What do we need to do?
I have to file for it.
Okay.
So I have to find out the process to do so.
Okay.
When I got here, the fuel inventory was so messed up
Yeah.
that they stopped applying for it. And
Okay.
I just never restarted.
Okay.
Yeah, in 15, it was $5,000.
All right, page 2, revenue. Miscellaneous revenue, 4,000. Who knows what to put there?
What is that, though?
Miscellaneous revenue.
Like
Stuff
what?
that I'm things that don't have their own dedicated place. Right, there's
Like
random
some of
stuff
my
that-
choices?
There's random stuff that we get money for that I can't think off the top of my
Well,
head. I run the report.
in 2015, it was $64,000. That's not random.
I don't know off the top of my head what it is. I will tell you that maybe.
That was $50,000 from the CDC.
No, that's in donations. I can pull a report of what's all in there.
Well, in 13, it was 56, so, I mean, I don't understand that, so,
I'll get you a report.
okay, thank you.
Right-of-way maintenance is the contract that with the state to maintain the right-of-way of 98.
And
Contract.
what does that include? Trimming the trees or what?
Just picking up the trash, cutting the grass.
Okay, so we get paid from the state to do that?
Just
okay.
Highway 98.
Just
Yeah,
like-
just Highway 90.
Mel Monthly invoices a company because the state has outsourced
Okay.
its billing.
They're called ICA, and they kind of do this on behalf of the state.
Okay.
Yeah, went and met with them last year to discuss what we're supposed to do, and it's make sure the lights are working, make sure the grass is cut, make sure the trash is picked up,
Okay.
things like that. Anything, you get a pothole in 98, DOT fixes that, now it's,
Next one down is the lighting contract. That's the street lighting. We haven't received money for that contract since 2013. I'm in discussion about it now, wondering why. I don't know if they got rid of it. I don't know what happened, but I'm going after it right now. It should be about 9,000. MSTU fire protection. This is the monthly check the city gets from the county for fire services. It's $1,250 a month. Court fines. This is the money that the city receives in fines. Ordinance fines, correct, Chief?
Yes,
Yeah. Not speeding ticket fines?
no, that's all inclusive.
Perfect. Next line down is interest. This is an all our cash on hand. That number is going to be less than 4,500, more than likely next year, depending on where we're at with our pooled cash, with the projects we have going on. We've got about $2 million in canal projects, so that's going to lower our capital. Rental from the CDC. This is the building rent they pay the city.
I thought that was set in stone. How come there's different amounts?
It's supposed to be $3,000 a year. And it's in their contract that way.
Oh, year to date. Oh, okay. Actual 3,700 then.
Don't know why that one happened.
Okay.
And 13 is more too.
Okay.
Rental from the cellular. This is the tower rental. We got the new tower contract this year, that's why there's a significant amount received already this year.
Excuse me, Adrian, can I back up?
Yeah.
$3,000 won't cover the utilities at the CDC.
That is your rental agreement for 20 years.
We've talked about that. It's in the rental agreement. For how many years?
20 years.
20 years. 20 years. And how long have they been in there?
I think they've got till 2018, 2019.
Oh, is that soon?
I think so, I'm not sure.
It's probably been about that long, but
They pay their own electric, we pay the water and sewer and garbage.
they pay the electric.
I believe they, yes, I believe
Okay.
so.
Well, I was thinking electric, because $3,000 won't pay the electric.
It doesn't pay the water, sewer, and sprinkler. That's $250 a month.
Okay.
Dockage fees, this is your slip rental. I have no idea what to predict with the new canal, what that's gonna change and what the plan is, so kept it the same.
Well, and the dockage fees, year to date, we have 27,000 already? I'm surprised at that, actually.
Now, this is something I mentioned earlier during the year, that we're grossly below Port St. Joe's dockage fees. We're going to have a brand new system with water and sewer at every slip, and right now we don't have that at every slip. Ours is like $200 a month, and theirs is $465. There's a great disparity there, and we really need to look at that, whether it's right now or later. I've got the card for their slippage rates in St. Joe, and we have an ordinance that has ours in it. It's actually less than $2,000 a year.
And Mayor, I also went and did a comparison with St. Joe, Bay County, Destin. Yeah, we're way below everybody.
We're spending $1 million of the taxpayers' money out of the general fund that they put aside $100,000 a year for years, and I think we need to recover some of that. We don't have to get stupid, but we need to seriously look at raising our rental rates. George Coffin also asked me something about raising his salary to 30% of the intake. I'm not necessarily in favor of. He's already drawing 25% of it. I'm not. Is that the right numbers I'm talking about?
I think so, but I have issues with that position too, that we can get into now if we want to, but
I have an issue with raising it any higher than it is.
I think if he's a contract employee, why are we paying for his phone and things? If he's a contract employee, all his expenses need to be his. I think we need to make it a part-time position with the city and we pay him his hours he works.
Well, if we did that, we would incur other things though.
Taxes,
And
workers' comp,
workers' comp insurance,
Yeah, but that's significant, isn't it? Workers' comp
unemployment insurance.
not for a part-time position. It wouldn't be too bad, but we need to look at something because
But at the same token, if he becomes a part-time employee, he can be assigned duties. And right now, his only duty is to rent. Well, I take that back. By virtue of the position, he also checks the votes.
Yes, he does.
So it's something to look at. We haven't had a lot of discussion. We kind of briefly did, but it's on my radar, something to look at because it's odd to me. That's all. It's just really odd that we have a contracted harbor master. But we pay his bills.
If we're doing a projection right here, we need to at least stop for a moment and talk about both these things. I don't think a $300 fee compared to a $465 fee is high. That's only $10 a day for slippage on a monthly basis. And we charge, for a 35-foot boat, we charge $35 a day.
Something else we were looking at is, Adrian and I think that we should have a resolution that's passed by the council on an annual basis with all of our fees in there, so that forces us to look at our fees every year.
I think that's a great idea.
Absolutely.
He's got it started in his spare time, but we'll keep working on that. For instance, no question that the boat slip fees need to be readjusted once the new canal is finished. Also, for instance, subdivision review. It's going to cost us right at $3,000 to review the subdivision on 8th Street from the Malerabas. But what we charge in our current fees is only less than $1,000. So you can see we're bleeding money. I think, in other words, our fees that we charge a subdivision developer should at least equal what our expenses are going to be, if not make a few bucks. So things like that we need to take a global look at.
And we need to do that quickly before we have any more. Yeah, absolutely. And I know Panhandle Engineering, he sent me Lynn Haven's developer fee schedule. That's just a no-brainer. You got to pass that on to the developer. Got to pass that on. We've lost, I don't know how many thousands of dollars looking at the 33rd and 34th Street project that should have been passed on to the developer. So we absolutely have got to do that.
Is it feasible to have that done? No, I'm just thinking that if we're going to pass this budget, wouldn't it be nice at the same time to say we're passing the budget, but we're also
Adopting fee schedule.
adopting our fee schedule?
I've been other places and it's been done different ways. It's
Okay.
January 1st, you do a
Okay.
fee schedule adoption in your appointments. We have elections in June, so I thought June would be an option. Budget time could be an option. I mean, it doesn't matter, but I think we need to get down to the
That's a good
detail of even copies, just for the front office, you know, what's the fee for this? Look at your chart and you're done.
Absolutely.
It makes it a lot easier. And then council can get a sheet and we're gonna set the rates for the year and this is what they are from blank, blank, and blank.
I think the budget year is the appropriate time.
Do it at the budget time?
Because we're writing down budget and we're writing down what we're getting, and what we're gonna spend. And we need to do a better job of allocating the money in our budget this year than we did last year. All those budget amendments, I realize the canal project, the dredge, I realize we had some unusual things. But if we get a little bit smarter right now, we don't have to do all that during the year. And if we can get that fee schedule, like I said, the people that are involved with those kind of fees, like Philip's already done the legwork. If he already has his numbers, we can come up with a realistic number and the council can look at it.
We can get a fee schedule ready for adoption when we adopt this. It's not gonna be that much work, it's pretty full in the
We
blanks.
looked at that list back a few months ago.
And we can make a point to say, if we're going to raise the dock fees, that we won't do it until the canal is complete,
That's correct.
so that they don't feel
There'd have
like,
to be an effective date on that. 'cause
That's right.
until
Well,
it's
this year will be
late.
odd, but traditionally, if we do it this way, I think we should make effective date October 1. It's effective in the
Right.
budget year. Everything.
So what is the dockage fee now?
It's only, by ordinance, it's like 1920 a month,
$19
$1,920 for a powered slip. And there's a fee schedule.
$1,920.
I saw another number, somebody was paying 2,000.
for a powered slip.
Is it a year? 2,000 a year, right?
Yeah, it's cheap, It's less than $200 a month.
Yeah. For some reason, 200 a month and 2,000 a year was in my head, but
Yeah, that's close.
Okay, so
Like I
it's
said,
less
summer
than
rate, that's what
$200
St. Joe
a
is
month.
$465.
For a powered slip, yeah, I agree we need to raise that, especially, I mean, I wouldn't say raise it before, when we had the canal in such a bad shape, but
It's
now
horrible.
it's gonna be nice.
Unreliable power, unreliable water sources, now all that's gonna be new.
And just so you know, when you see it on this budget, that's just an in and out. That money comes into the general fund and instantly transfers to the canal park fund. That's what's paying for this project. Our canal money that we've been saving is from dockage fees, and that's what it's dedicated to.
Transfers
So-
to the canal fund.
Mhm.
But for many, many years, the previous councils have taken $100,000 from the general fund, put it
Additional.
in the canal
Mhm.
fund. And we did not do that last year.
And I did not do it in this budget this year, so.
So when do we raise this?
This fall, if
Yeah.
if we're,
Yeah,
if
if
it's
we do that
available.
resolution.
But only, the reality of the canal project right now is the concrete guys have slowed the progress. They're not where we thought we would be the middle of July. I haven't talked to the contractor, I don't know where he's gonna go, but we've known all along that the end of July is when we're supposed to switch sides of use, and they're nowhere close to having the parking, the sidewalks, and the slips in on the north-south line right now to switch, so it's going to at least be in August sometime before they can do that, and that's if they get a lot of people in here and get really busy over the next few weeks. So until those guys, now when those guys actually shift from the east-west line to the north-south line, they will in fact be in new slips, and that'll be before October. So yes, it could be. And none of the other slips are available to rent until they get through next February, so you're correct. we could start a new fee schedule in October with no problem, with no issue, because they would be using new slips.
Speaking of the canal project, I reached out to Bill last week to find out what's going on, because you're absolutely right. We have slowed down to a crawl with the canal project. He was out on vacation last week. He's due back this week, and I will get you a report before this week is out to find out, because I want to find out, we need to find out what's going on. We need a lot of fire under it. We need to get this thing moving, get it going. Because they went from a decent crew doing the concrete work to 3 guys now. You know, so.
And they're not getting it done.
Right.
There's a completion date. What's the completion date in the bid, in the
End of
contract?
February.
End of February, oh.
Do they pay us money if they don't complete it for them?
Honestly, I don't remember in the contract, there's a penalty clause.
There's no penalties.
There's no penalty clause? So they may not get in a hurry.
Yes, yes, so
On Dr. Steve,
why hurry?
So we're gonna get the fee schedule
Yep,
straight, and that'll do.
and we'll make one for when we adopt this.
So
we'll
what
have
are we
that.
thinking for raising the dock fees?
Well, I just threw a number out there. If we're at 200, 300 is a huge increase, it's 50%, but it's still
Less than anywhere else.
50% less than St. Joe.
Phil, what did you find out in your due diligence? What's typical around here?
Typically, it's charged by the foot, not by the slip. This was been months ago, so I don't remember any of the figures off the top of my head.
Okay.
I do have everything, and I will get everything to y'all.
Okay, all right.
Sale of surplus property. I budgeted nothing. I never budgeted anything. Last year I did, because we did that massive list that we surplused, and that actually brought in $9,825.
Good job.
So I do not have anything budgeted there. Slip dredging, we don't do that anymore. CDC dredge maintenance. I called Kimberly to see what they anticipate they will be giving us next year for dredging. There is no contract that states they have to. If we go off past practice and what she anticipates, it's $30,000.
Okay, that pause for another moment. Last year, we received a half-hearted promise on the tractor, and we didn't get any money. This year, I want this council, under signature, to go for a specific dollar amount request from the CDC with justification. And I want to do that before this budget process is approved. And I want a commitment. If they're not going to commit, I want to know they're not going to commit.
They did have one last year. We did send a letter last year and we got a response in dollars, correct?
I didn't send one.
I don't think we did. I think it was all
Could've been 2 years
verbal.
ago.
2 years ago, right?
Okay.
But, you know, I'm not beating up the CDC, but since we only gathered 8% of their income this year, that's a pretty small amount of support to the city for us supporting all the tourism activities that come to town, which have to do with all the services of the folks sitting here. And we've had a tremendous year already. It's the biggest thing ever. But at the same time, we just hit a record garbage month in June that we've never hit before. An astronomical, nearly 500,000 pounds of garbage. 1,100 people didn't create that, folks.
Absolutely.
We've got to look at that, and I'm seeing some good cooperation with the CDC. Thank you, Linda, for helping us with that. I'm hoping that's going to continue to grow this year and bloom a little bit. But this is a huge budget, and if they're getting a huge increase in tourism taxes, I would like to see some corresponding help.
Do we ever see a budget? Do they have a budget?
Yes.
When do we see the budget?
Well, I can bring it to you. We'll probably get it either this month or in August.
It's
Yeah.
never presented to the council.
It's never presented to the council, and
It's not required.
It's all public information.
It's all public information.
It's not, or it is?
It is all
Oh,
public
Yes,
information.
public information.
So we're public.
They're under the sunshine law too. I love the idea of doing this in the budget season and asking for some kind of commitment from them. They do a budget as well, so they
Yes,
know
ma'am.
that now their budget is not near as tight as ours. I mean, they have to realize that we need their help. and putting some justification in there, number justification, I think would make sense to everybody. So I think that's a fabulous idea, and the 8% of their budget needs to be brought out just a little bit more, in my opinion, because we are supposed to be working hand in hand, and 8% to me is insane. They've done a fabulous job, and we've seen that, but that is a huge cost to us, huge cost to the taxpayers. So I do think they need to step up to the plate a little bit more, and asking them during budget season, asking for a commitment during the budget, make sure that we're not, begging in the middle of next year for something.
Right.
Well, I agree, and I think that if we do this now, because their meeting is next week.
Right.
If we can get something in writing now, budget is either in July or August that they do, and their budget is not as extensive as this. It's at the meeting, here's the budget, anybody disagree? That's it. So, if we can get it to them within the next week, I think that'd be a fabulous idea.
Or for you guys that don't know, and this is an oversimplification, they do a lot of hard work to get their budget together, but all they have to do is present a work plan to the county commission. And the work plan has dollars attached to it, and it's sometimes it's so generic as ABC Advertising Company, $200,000. And it's not even really broken down what they're gonna do. Or pier maintenance in Mexico Beach, $50,000. And then the county commission, who controls the TDC's money, approves that, and they have their work plan for the year, which is their budget.
Why didn't we get paid for the tractor?
I don't think we got a firm commitment.
Okay, so in this case, we'd like to get a firm commitment on what they're going to give us or what they're not going to give us, so we can count on that. And if their budget is that loose, it shouldn't be very difficult for them to figure something out.
I think part of their issue was that the money that they were promising to give us or hoping to give us was based on excess money from the county that was allocated to each individual CDC. And I don't know whether the March lack of Panama City Beach participants hurt that or not, but I understand their cut of the pie wasn't as great as they had thought. In other words, they can't budget and give a commitment on something they don't know is going to happen yet.
Yeah, the tractor's been told to us that when that happened was just like the 50,000 last year, when they got that true up or whatever in March, they had extra money and they gave it to us, and they were hoping to have extra again this year to reimburse for the tractor. That's where that came from.
So maybe we need to write them a note and say,
That's what I say, I want something more than a note before we go in.
rather than
and
just verbal, maybe we need to write them a note and say, how did you make out with Bay County? How much can we count on for the tractor?
Last year,
Or
we spent
because-
$60,000 for that tractor, and it came out of our hide.
At CDC, they also paid for the 600, the beach rate.
Yes, they did do that.
I think we should look at CDC giving them the tractor and the beach rate and letting them take over the beach rate.
You can
Because-
dream on.
Because we only got 3 people in road department, and then one person on the beach rate, down to 2. I mean, I can argue this one all day long, but CDC likes to try to dictate when we beach rate, which I think, I got an argument with CDC last year about the beach rating. If they, give us X amount of dollars for the tractor, will we beach rate whenever they call? I can't say that one way or the other. No, you donate the money for the tractor, it's not your tractor, it's still the city's tractor. We use it as we need it. Like right now, we got one tractor down, so we're bouncing around between obligations of what we got to do, grass cutting, bush hogging, and so on and so forth. Beach raking, there's a lot of switching stuff around. But my opinion, CDC, they can pay somebody $10 an hour to beach rate if they want it done all the time.
Well, I hate to give up any kind of responsibility to somebody else, that we have to make sure they're doing what we want them to do. I mean, we're the ones that become responsible, not CDC. people come into town, they're looking at Mexico, you know, they're looking at the city. And,
Yeah.
I like to collect as much money from them, to offset our expenses, but, I'd rather be in charge of making sure the beach is taken care of.
But what Philip is not saying, the TDC in Panama City does the beach raking and trash pickup by a contractor.
They do it, that's what they do in Gulf County too, right?
And-
Which I was getting to that point. Yeah, we're the only ones that do it in-house.
But see, in all fairness, the Panama City gets $17 million a year.
Yeah, there you go.
They got bunches of money to do things like that. We just don't have that kind of.
Which we also do a lot better job. I'm not arguing that fact.
Wait a minute,
It wasn't
wait a
but a
minute,
couple-
say that again.
It wasn't but a couple of years ago that city of St., or yeah, was it the city or the county? It might have been the county. Anyway, they wanted us to rake
Gulf
2
County,
miles of
yeah,
beach, I think it
St.
was
Joe
down
Beach,
there.
yep, mhm, yep. Mhm.
why, I don't know, I wasn't here in
Mm-hmm.
this position when it got shot down. I don't know the reason behind. I'm glad it didn't happen because it would just be in,
Well, and that's why we
Yeah.
shot it down, you know, what they were gonna pay us, and I don't remember the dollar amount.
probably wasn't much.
It wasn't enough to cover the expense of maintaining that track there, the beach rake. So that's why we shot it down. But, so St. Joe Beach, I'll take that back. Gulf County does not rake their beaches. They don't rake
They
the
look
seaweed.
They contracted out.
Well, seaweed
they
is a
do it
good
more
thing.
here.
Seaweed is a good thing, so we do that. You know, that's probably not the best environmental thing to do, to rake up the seaweed, but we do it, so, and we're noted for that. People notice that.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm not saying that we stop that, I'm just saying it's not the most, I mean, there's a little bit of controversy with an environmentalist for that, but.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, it seems like.
That is something though, we need to discuss it one day in the very near future.
About TDC
Beach
doing
rate.
that?
Just beach rate.
Oh. Oh,
We do it on an as-needed basis right now.
We do. But since I became the public works director and reading the permits and everything, there's a lot more to it than what I've always thought. You know, right now we rake up the beach, we fill up our hopper, we back up to the dune, we dump it. And I feel like I'm getting off course here because this isn't technically budget stuff. Anyhow,
it sort of is.
anyhow, our permit says we're not allowed to do that. You know, in the past, we've always done it because it covers with sand, vegetation grows out of it, creates more of a dune.
Yes.
Makes it stronger. It's our first defense of a storm surge is our dune line. According to our permit, it's a lot more complicated. You know, what we should be doing is a lot more complicated than what we are doing.
You gotta pick it up, basically.
We have to either put it in a sway car, like a dumpster, bring it back to the yard, things like that.
And
Which
do what with it from that point?
have it hauled off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we tried that one year, and it didn't work. I mean, we couldn't get the beach done. We couldn't, you know, because in the summertime you get out before the people start piling out on the beach, and try to get it done before you can't go through it anymore. And by taking it to the yard, we weren't getting half the beach done a day. You know, so that's something that I think we should sit down and get serious about and discuss and try to figure out what we're going to do.
Where does that permit come from?
DEP.
That's a DEP permit. We've been doing that for years though, haven't we? Dumping it in the,
It only became a problem with the BP oil spill. When the Coast Guard and their representatives were running all over the place out here, that's when it came up to question, somebody had questioned me about us dumping our stuff at the dune line because we have invasive species that's mixed inside the grass. So when we dump it over at the dune line, we're having species that ain't native to this area growing into the dunes. You know,
Even though they
which
can't
at the
serve.
time, I was
Yeah.
in the road department, and I told him, I said,
Right.
look, my boss man said we're doing it this way, you got a problem, then you go talk to him. So that's when it all started becoming an issue.
So it's not an issue now.
It's not an issue until,
until we're called on the carpet about it.
But
Which-
it's interesting because, like I said, I found all this out after reading through the permits. It's a lot more, what we should be doing is a lot more strenuous.
Well, I like the idea that it does make the dune stronger.
It is really, it is, that's about since you're raking it, to me, to dump it, somewhere is ridiculous. I mean, to take it to the incinerator or whatever is ridiculous. I'd rather not rake than to do that, because it does build up the dunes. I mean, I've had people who on the west side of town want us to dump the seaweed over there to create more dunes.
Until we dump it over there.
And then, because it's stinky,
And
it's
then
stinky
they
and
want us to come get it.
and it creates flies. If they can just hold on until, until it starts to be covered with the sand.
Well, once it dries out, it's fine. But I mean, like I said, it's a discussion I believe I would like to have with the council, and because it's a lot more, I can get a lot more in-depth than what we are right now.
That's kind
I
of
don't know,
concerning right
maybe it's
now.
not good to get in depth. Sometimes you get in depth, you get your truck stuff in trouble.
Sometimes we pull the rug over something, we get in trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
And then pay
it
yearly.
concerns me.
That's interesting. I didn't know we even pulled permits for that.
Maybe we
There's
won't
a
need
permit
the
for
beach
everything.
rake.
I mean, we want to tie our shoes down on the beach, we gotta have a permit for it.
Okay, well, let's move on past this right now, though, and we'll get into the details of sanitation on the beach.
Well, the next topic is beach rake.
Okay.
That's what I've been told by CDC, much like the dredge, same thing, 17,000. All right, moving down to donations, I usually always budget 1,000. How do you budget donations? I mean, it's a shot in the dark. We've received 100 so far this year, but that's usually a pass-through to a dedicated project anyway. All right, transfer in from the canal. This is gonna have a number, because this canal project's gonna go over into next year. I don't know what that number's going to be until we get closer. It's not going to matter. As for this discussion, it's gonna be whatever the expenses versus revenue to make it work. So there will be a number later, but don't worry about it now. Transfer in from paving and maintenance. We'll get into this when we get into capital and see if we want to use some of the money to pay for some of the stuff or not.
We got a request to pave the end of 30th Street.
Yep.
I've looked at that. Until there is a need to pave that, I'm not in favor of paving that at this time. It's only 150 feet. It goes to a dead-end street. It is the access that the Corys are asking for their property, which is going to be up on our agenda very soon. And at that time, we would be required to do that connector, but I don't know that that's going to happen this year.
Utility tax fund, same thing. When we get into our capital and decide what we're bringing.
Can I
in.
back up for just
Sure.
1 minute about the paving? I said this before when 24th Street was paved. I'm sure everybody here at the table remembers when we were individually charged for road front footage for paving. I know that street wasn't.
We did not do a special assessment. We should have.
So let's keep that in mind when we pave at the bequest of a
Prior to
individual.
paving.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, utility tax fund, same thing. When we get into capital, we'll talk about it. Right now, nothing. Com for last capital asset, we better not have another fire. 0. Debt proceeds, not doing any projects with debt, should be nothing. Prior year surplus, we have 550 there. Prior year surplus is kind of a rough term to use, but that's where I budget it. This is City Hall. This is the transfer in to pay for the City Hall project. That's what this is. You see, we had 550 this year in case we got to it. I know we're not gonna get to it before the year's out.
Do we have that much in there?
No,
I didn't think so.
about
So-
500. This is the project cost.
Oh, this is the project
Yeah.
cost. Under
It'll be
revenue?
about 500. Yeah, we have to, we're not using general fund dollars to pay for it, so we need to transfer it in from our other.
Okay.
Carry forward for prior year USDA, this was your USDA project back in 2013 and 14. Proceeds from refunding buds will be nothing, which gets us a total of $3,115,323.
USDA was the water project.
Yeah, that's when we were giving that money to pastor. So, technically we went through revenue first. Probably should have done expense first because it's all gonna change, but at least you know what it looks like. Next page is elected officials. This is you guys. This one's pretty easy. Salary is gonna be the same. Haven't heard anybody proposing a change in the wages of the council.
Thought Barry might do that.
Reduce it, 0? Let's have it completely volunteer.
She's quitting.
Taxes, of course,
She's not
are
running again, I tell.
taxes on all these pages, just to give you a background on what we got for salaries and stuff. 7.65% was figured in taxes of the total salaries, so that number's gonna change as the salaries change, so that's a pretty solid number. It's actually $2,203.20, but to keep the budget easy, I round my pennies.
765 is Social Security and Medicare tax match.
Correct, correct. Workers' comp, I have talked to our insurance carrier about workers' comp. Told me to budget 10% increase, just like health insurance, just like last year. It will not more than likely be there, but safely, that's what we're doing. Under travel and education, left it the same, didn't change anything. So there's a change of $15 or $14.80 to the elected official budget, and that is all in workers' comp. That's all. Next one's administrator. Salaries, of course, is just like last year, the percentage split over water, sewer, sanitation, and general fund. This is the general fund portion.
Do you have the percentages?
I can get them. 20% is water. 20% is sanitation. 20% is sewer, and 60% or 40% is general fund.
Okay, thank you.
So that is that one. Then taxes, again, that's a percentage of that. Retirement, same split, percentage of that. Health insurance, you see a decrease. That is because our administrator has changed his coverage. That's the only reason that changed. And workers' comp is again budgeted for 10%. As far as expenses, kept it all the same, no changes. Moving on.
So Mel decided to change his carrier.
He decided to change his coverage.
Okay,
In other words, Miss Beverly got a full-time job and got her own insurance.
okay.
Oh, good.
That's my question.
Next one's the clerk. Same percentage breakdown as the administrator, same split. Taxes is the percentage, retirement's the percentage. Health insurance, hey, surprise everybody, I'm getting married. Mine might change, but as of now I kept it the same.
You think that's worth that, huh?
I'm still gonna have single coverage because I think her insurance is better than mine, but it could change, but I don't think it will. I could go on hers and it could go to 0. Who knows? Workers' comp is 10%, and then below, everything stayed the same except for insurance. I'm not really sure why I have insurance and the administrator doesn't, but I think that's the bonding. I believe it's bond insurance.
Bond insurance.
I thought
Bond
it was
insurance, because you're a city
personally
clerk.
Covers me for financial.
Personally bonded
Okay,
as the
yeah.
clerk.
Stop it.
I thought you were just good friends, okay.
Bonding. All right. Good on that one? Legal. Here's the topic. I don't know what we're going to do. All right. I put 50,000 into your legal fee plus the retainage fee. I don't know what we anticipate next year's legal fees to cost.
I'd say less.
We're at 46,000 this year so far.
Well, we had a lot of things that we had to catch up on, so I would anticipate it would be a little bit less too, but that being said, you know, who knows?
Don't we get charged every time he answers an email or every time he picks up the phone?
Hey, well,
Every minute he researches.
that reminds me, what was the first, his first offer?
50,000.
It was 50,000?
It was 50,000 for everything. Unlimited calls, unlimited data, the whole thing.
But it was decided we wanted,
That we were going to spend.
Plus expenses. 50,000 plus expenses.
Plus expenses, which would include travel or?
Duplicating cost,
Yeah, it could be another 4,000.
it was administrative type things.
Administrative type things. So is he willing, probably not now because he knows us, but is he willing to do that?
No. Because that was a one-year deal because he felt that we had so much pent-up demand, shall we say, that he was going to give us 1 year of help. But
Well, see, now he should feel like he's kind of gotten us over that hump, especially if we do our developer fees. He doesn't have to worry about that.
He's an attorney.
I understand that, but, you know, so maybe he doesn't feel, have you talked to him at all?
I haven't talked to him at all because he signed the contract and it's a multi-year.
Oh, okay, so we're locked into the 25 a year with one meeting a month, for how long?
Off the top of my head, I hate to tell
3
you.
years?
I thought it was a 3-year thing.
Okay.
Oh, okay, so there's no use talking about that, okay, all right, well, then I didn't know.
I'll double check,
So-
Okay.
get y'all a copy.
So what
What's the
number?
guidelines
Well-
for, say for me, I mean, do I have any restrictions to call the attorney, or can I call him anytime I want to, or?
We, at the table, we've said repeatedly that everything should go through the administrator because our costs got out of hand very quickly. And
Is that the
we
case?
haven't made that a written rule, but we need to decide.
I think we need to, I don't know about you, Rex, but there's a lot of questions. I mean, you know, you just have tons of questions as you proceed through this stuff. So I don't like the fact of being restricted. That's my opinion. I don't like the fact of being restricted because you are legally liable. So if you have in my opinion, if you have a question has anything, any stretch of the imagination could be legal, I think you need to have access to him. I've never called him. He has called me. I've never called him. I've only emailed. That's how I choose to communicate. I've never gone to see him. But I do like having the access to him, and I try to, you know, I mean, they're not frivolous things to me. I mean, if I'm going to email the attorney, it's because I have a real concern. So you also, I believe, don't we have access to the Florida League of Cities attorneys too? You can call a hotline, and that's free. But the first thing they'll tell you, it's kind of like our real estate hotline, the first thing they'll tell you is you talk to your city attorney first. But that, you know, I've used that before. I've used the Florida League of Cities before. And it gave you at least some kind of sense of should I pursue this more with the city attorney. So you have that option as well.
Your points are well taken. The thing that bothers me about our contract with Nick is $200 an hour for reading emails and calling us on the phone. That's a lot of money. And my whole idea is not to restrict you from using when you need it, but to restrict us all budgetary, in budgetary sense, because it kind of went wild initially. We had $10,000 worth of fees talking about city charter, and that was ridiculous.
Just as an instance, and of course, the board can do whatever it wishes and will abide by it, so my opinion didn't really hold all that much weight. But there was an instance, I can't remember what it was, that was coming up at a meeting. I called Nick, got everything straight, what the process was, everything was all hunky-dory in my mind, that I could answer questions if they were to come up. Then he received an email from a board member who asked the same question, and so he had to take his time, a second time, and explain it all again.
That's what I mean, I just wondered, is there some questions that could be answered before it got to the attorney? And not to put any restrictions on you, but just to...
Well, and you can always
Right.
email Mel first, and then if you
Yeah.
don't get an answer, or you feel like you didn't get an answer that
Right.
satisfied you, then you can go forward. But Nick will always, well, I shouldn't say always, I guess he hasn't done it a couple times with me, copied Mel on whatever, so.
I guess he charges for copying you too. My theory is this. I personally feel like Mel and the mayor probably should be the only ones talking, and I know this is going to get your grain, talking to Nick in order to totally control those costs. I don't think we're going to have the questions that were asked last year I just don't think we'll have the questions. I think everybody understands what I'm talking about. But that can run into all kinds of money, and we get into a situation just like Mel explained then, that he already had the information and he was ready to give it to us. And I expect to get more information from Mel this year than we've ever gotten from Mel, because that's his job. I want him to be knowledgeable, and if I have a question about what's going on, I will ask him. And if he doesn't know the answer, then he'll find out. But I don't think I should go out on a tangent trying to find out when that's his job. And a lot of the time, well, I haven't called him that much, but a couple of times that I have, he's known the answer, which I thought, well, that's pretty good, you know. I didn't know he was that much of a legal mind. But, so that's my point, and we could control that thing that got away from us this year. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be that bad with this group as it was with the other group.
I don't think that, I think that this year we had so many concerns and we started way below the level line that Nick had to come in and help us with a lot of problems that we probably won't have this next year. I do not like the idea that just Tom and Mel are the only ones that can touch base with Nick. We have valid questions as well, and it might not be their valid questions. And if Mel asks something that he thinks that's pertinent to the next meeting, and Mel and Nick answers him, why can't he say, do not share this, just read this. This was my question, this was his answer. That might be the same question, so it was one time that then Nick got the same question. I don't like the idea that we cannot contact Nick. I don't think any of us are going to call him daily or write him daily or be frivolous with our money, but I don't like being contained that only 2 people out of 6 can contact him.
Point of clarification, that's what Jerry said, that's not what I do. As Mel can attest, from early on when we started running into all these big money things, all of my legal questions come to Mel. And only if there's an issue of urgency, I will go to Mel's office when Mel calls, and we both talk to him at the same time. I'm really trying to be conscious of this. I'm not exactly happy, completely content with Nick. I think we ask him very pointed questions sometimes. He gives us very vague answers.
That's the attorney, I think, don't you think?
It may be. But like the other day, I specifically asked him, what is your legal opinion? And he gave me a specific sidestep, and he didn't give me his legal opinion.
Well, and I, you know, on that same thing, I know that he's said when we've asked him that in meetings, and he can say, I can argue either way. That's the attorney. I can argue either way. You tell me which way you want me to argue, and I'll argue. That's not what, when we're asking for his opinion, we want him to tell us what he thinks the right thing is to do. So I understand exactly. I understand what you're saying there, but I think that is the attorney.
On the other hand, look at our comparison.
Oh, God.
This is 150% better than what we've been used to.
But it's 500% more expensive.
Well, but it's worth it.
I totally agree that it's
Well,
worth it.
I just think we have an obligation to, if we can get an answer first, get it, and then, you know.
And the only thing I want to add on the attorney thing is a lot of the guff I get about packet stuff not getting out is usually related to not getting an answer from him. That's usually who holds us up on getting packets out, is the attorney.
Well, he's not at our whim. I mean, he can't answer things at our whim.
He does this for other cities too, does
I
he?
think so. I don't know how many, but.
His firm certainly does.
There's
so
like-
I don't know about him.
Like 18 attorneys down there. They're all governmental attorneys. It shouldn't be too difficult to get answered.
Yeah.
But at any rate,
Pick me a number.
let's just, I think the $50,000 number you put down here is probably going to be pretty close.
I agree.
And we can be cognizant of
Yes.
that, and we
Right.
can adjust, we can help that number by being,
Yes.
using a little diligence on our part.
And I think with our engineer and our planner, you know, that we now have and doing our developer fees, I think that'll,
On the planner topic, let's turn the page to P&Z.
okay.
That was a good,
Communication is your copying and stuff for planning. That's always the same. Rentals and lease, or no, communication is not the copy. It's the percentage of the phone line. Rentals and leases is the copying. Under other current charges, the only change, you see $10,000. That's the addition of being able to pay for your planner and engineering services and whatever else we need related to planning and zoning.
Oh, this is just something we put in a,
It's an expense line item so we can pay these people that we have contracts with now.
okay.
What is the number we need to anticipate spending? I said 10, I have no idea. So that is what that additional 10,000 is for.
So have we seen any kind of decrease, since we're not doing packets for everybody, have we seen any kind of decrease in our copying at all?
It's hard to say we changed out copying contracts. It's been a decrease because of that, but
Yeah, I wouldn't think it would be much anyway.
are we good with 10?
Yeah, so something's got to be in there.
Yeah.
Your starting number.
All right.
And if we get offset that by grants and or contractors paying the price or
Get
whatever.
developer fees, yeah.
Now we're into general government and public works things. Philip and I sat down and did a lot of this together. Salaries, same.
So before you begin, that general fund is, city
For
staff.
employees?
Yeah.
Let me run down exactly what it is. Switch spreadsheets on you. It is 40% of Mary Harmon, 55% of Lindsay, 10% of Sherry Martin, 25% of Philip Hall, 40% of Sharon Harrell. That's it for employees. Good?
Oh, you don't come out of there at all?
I come out of the clerk line item in the general fund.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
This is budgeting the 3%. It is 3% all the way through from here on out. It's the budget amount for employees over next year. The council sets two rates, and that's the clerk and the administrator. The rest are set per pay schedule. So 3% is what we did. Again, that can change. Mel and I's, I hate to make assumptions of what it's supposed to be, but I carry it through all the way across, but the council will have to set that rate. Going back to that. Anyway.
We stuck it at 3% for everybody, just to have a budget number out there. That doesn't mean every employee is going to get 3%. We fully anticipate of that 3%, part of it will be the cost of living, the remainder will be merit-based.
Part of last year's whole thing. Overtime, 5,000, same as last year. Taxes increases, that's 7.65. Retirement's the same thing. Health insurance, health insurance went down. Mary did not add her spouse as I thought she would, so that expense from last year was budgeted. He is not insured on her policy. And then Lindsay was different than prior. Something was different there, but that's why that's decreased. It's hard to budget health insurance because I use the existing staff. That's how I do it. You know, people, we could turn over something, it could change, but just to budget, I used existing. Workers' comp, that's $54, that's the 10%. And unemployment. For some reason, in previous years, we've budgeted unemployment. We have no unemployment people right now thinking, no one's getting unemployment, so I didn't budget for it. I don't, you know, being a municipality in the state of Florida, we don't pay unemployment tax like a private business does. We pay if it's used. Everybody else pays into the pot to have insurance for it. We pay if we use it. Does that make sense? So I don't budget for it unless there's somebody on it. Professional services is 0. Accounting and auditing is 15,000. That's our same audit contract. Travel's 3,500. Same there. Communication.
Okay, well, let's go back up to professional services. So we adopted in 16, 15,000, but year to date.
Your line up.
I'm sorry, where
Nothing
are we?
under professional services in 16.
Oh, let me get my sheet, sorry.
It's okay. You're on accounting and auditing.
Oh, yep, I sure am.
Okay. Communication.
So
Philip.
go back up to, go back up to accounting and auditing.
Yes, ma'am.
We budgeted 15 and it was actually 28.6.
Well, that's not true. That number needs to be reallocated amongst the enterprise funds. That's just where it's coded. I haven't reallocated that because the audit just finished. As we pay for the audit, we bill it to 519 general government. The water, sewer, and sanitation pay percentage of that.
Okay,
So
so it's gonna be,
it can be roughly 50.
Falling,
Yeah, we have
okay.
a contract that I pull and allocate.
okay,
So
okay, thank you.
Travel's the same. Communication. Philip did an overhaul of our cell phones throughout the city. Some people didn't have them, some people had them, some didn't work. Some went to a smartphone to enable them to have email, some, the whole thing's been redone. So that's why this is, and we were using a spreadsheet from 2011 to allocate communication. So that's why that's higher, is because that's the allocation to that fund.
But it's also higher too, because we bought extra phones.
Yes.
In the event of an emergency, we have emergency phones.
And it's City Hall internet speed increase, it's all of that loops into that. Down to utilities, kept it flat. Rentals and leases, we bumped that up and I don't remember why. Philip, do you?
Yes, in the event we need to rent a long reach or an excavator or whatever piece of equipment. We did not budget anything last year, nor did we the year before, and we've had to rent tractors. So this is in the event. We
You'll
didn't
see
plan
it.
for it before, we're planning for it now.
You'll see it in every budget when we're moving forward of his
Yeah.
public works. It's rentals for equipment if we need it. It was just 500 here. Insurance, same thing. Repairs and maintenance. We actually decreased that line item because we're going to do a better job of billing it to the department it belongs.
Not only that, we also, two of our utility tractors are brand new. We have a couple new lawnmowers. We have newer things that we're not sinking a bunch of money into no more. We got rid of quite a bit of that stuff last year.
Printing, promotional.
Okay, so sorry.
Go ahead.
So I know that we had talked about before, repairs and maintenance general repairs and maintenance for buildings.
We have it in here.
It's coming up later. You'll see it.
Okay, thank you.
And I just caught something that I can remove, and I'm going to tell you right now. Printing, change that to a 0. Remove the 3,500. We no longer take our bills to be mailed at an outside place. We do it in-house.
Can we go back to the communication?
Yes.
The 5,900, is that because of the new phones and service that these people have? Or
It's more than that. It's our increase of internet speed. It's our telephones in City Hall. It's the cell phones. It's all of it in one.
just the product, not the
It's the
individual?
service. It is the individual as well. That would be in there. Cell phone plans?
So we pay their cell phone plan bill?
The city phones we
City-
do, yeah.
city
The
phone, yeah.
city phones?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, yeah, the city phones.
Are you good? All right. Promotional, 1,000. That's if we do an event or something. Other current charges. I hate other current charges because this is the I don't know where to put it button. This gets into the credit card. Let's talk about our city credit cards. We have 2 credit cards, $10,000 limit. We use them all the time for things that don't have accounts set up, for whatever. I would like us to consider getting multiple credit cards on that same account, where one belongs to Public Works, one belongs to the police chief, one belongs to City Hall, one belongs to the council. The biggest struggle we have when the credit card bill comes is finding out who is responsible for it. Who didn't turn in their receipt? Who do I need to call? If we get it department-wide, I can tell you whose it is and who I need to harass. So I think Chief hates getting harassed by me when I find something on my computer that I keep yelling at him that he did, but it was me, you know? That's never happened. So I think it's a way that it can help us out. Don't increase the credit line. Don't get multiple accounts. Still have one account, but each one having their own code. What does everybody think?
You can have different cards on the same account.
Correct.
I think it's a good idea.
I think it's a great
That's no
idea.
different than having a .01, .02,
Correct.
.03 on an account. It's no different.
And I think, somewhat we think, I've heard both sides of the argument, it can create people having free spirit to spend, and I think it's going to create accountability for us. I think we're going to know who's responsible for it and be able to clear it out, and hopefully clear out these other current charge columns. Because that's where we put things. If we don't know where it goes, I know what it's for, but I have no idea who bought it. It's going to go in general government.
Yeah,
I think we need to be accountable.
absolutely.
All right, I will look and get in that, and we're going to keep the credit limit at 10,000 still. It's just going to be multiple. All right, office supplies.
And obviously, they can't spend over the amount they're authorized.
Yeah, we have a 3,000, 8,000, 5,000. Isn't that the numbers?
So
8,000.
those department heads are the ones who are accountable. They have to hold their keys.
And another nice thing about it is council goes to training. I give you a credit card. Mel's in a meeting, Mel's somewhere else. I don't have a credit card. So if everybody has one, they were responsible for that group, and that's who can have it. So that way we always have access to one. All right. Office supplies has just a $750 bump up. As usual, we bump it a little bit every year depending on what we need.
Adrian, is this the fund you're gonna take money out of when we set up a new city hall for office supplies?
Uh-huh.
750 increase.
Yeah.
And I mean, little things like in and out boxes and all that stuff.
Most of them are going to come with us, I think.
Yeah, but I mean,
But there's probably going to be new stuff, and that's pretty generously budgeted. I mean, we're buying a filing cabinet. What are you looking at me like that for?
Where,
When you said most of it, are you talking about the equipment in City Hall now?
One copier comes with one stage.
Well, yeah, that stuff, but most of that, the furniture in there belongs to.
Yeah, the furniture in there, yes. But as
So-
far as the furniture, that's going to be part of the City Hall capital.
okay.
on the capital budget.
Yeah.
All right,
We'll get their stuff back.
Philip thinks I'm taking all his goodies.
I'm gonna rape you.
I can see the plate now.
Operating supplies, this has to do with City Hall. We bumped that up 1,500, that's, the equipment stuff. We bought a new fax machine because, trust me, we needed a new fax machine because it was ancient. Uniforms,
Okay, we do know that we can fax online on your computer, right? That you don't need a physical machine?
On our
We
computer.
do know that, right?
We talked about this, our copy machine can fax. We're not gonna pay the expense
I'm
to
not
have-
talking your copy machine, I'm talking your email,
You don't know how to do
your computer. So I pay, I don't know, $20 a year,
You can receive too,
and I can receive and send faxes.
for the locates mainly.
We get all of our locates from the state by fax machine.
Okay.
If you have somebody's computer dedicated for that, and they're not in the office, then you've lost out. So the best way to do that is to spend the $199 for a fax machine like we did. And
Well,
it's
yeah,
dedicated.
yeah, fax machines should be pretty cheap.
It was cheap, yeah.
But what you do is you receive a fax, you print it out, and you give it to the whoever.
It prints out on the machine, and then we give it to Philip and Mary.
We haven't talked about this, but this is an assumption of mine. I believe the new fax machine will stay when we leave, because our copy machine will be set up to fax, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Uniforms. We don't get uniforms. Fuels and lubricants, kept it the same. When you see the fuel line items, you're gonna see 0 spent so far this year. That's because I haven't done the fuel allocation. I do it at the end of the year. But I try to do it semi through the year, but I haven't done it. So that's why you're gonna see that at 0. Books, publications, and education, 1,500, that's an increase of 500, and that's based solely on what we've spent so far this year. That's why I increased it, because we've already spent 15. Tuition assistance, I'm assuming that's gonna remain 0, because when the economy tanked, we put it to 0, and we've never put it back up. Correct? There's no, perfect. Capital, $550,000 construction in progress. That's the rollover number from this year for City Hall. No, we do not have that amount of money. But this allows us to not have to do an amendment if we go up to that amount of money.
Okay,
Okay.
that's good.
And you're saying that the furniture will come out of, you said capital expenses?
Yep, capital,
Equipment?
and part of it out of the operating, yep. Questions?
So machinery and equipment year-to-date, go ahead.
What's that?
What is that?
Oh, boy. I'll write that down, because I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
I'm going to guess related to the stormwater project, or the ditch cleaning, or something of that sort. Equipment rental.
You spent a bunch of money when the dredge was out, is that where this line is? Equipment rental.
Should be in canal, but it's possible that it's in there. I'm gonna pull up the budget from the one that we're in to look at the detail, because I see we budgeted 111,000. I'm gonna see what that was.
Yeah, so your number on that is wrong. On the
All right.
difference.
Public Works Director vehicle and a backhoe, but we didn't buy a backhoe, did we? Yes, we did buy the backhoe.
Yes.
$83,000, so that's the backhoe. 83,000 is the backhoe, and 28,000 is the Public Works Director vehicle.
So,
And Civic Center upgrades are in there too.
Civic Center upgrades are in the machinery and equipment?
No, in that budget, not in that line item. That's
Okay.
why your operating supplies is so high.
So on the difference, Adrian?
Okay, let me get back. Okay?
So on machinery and equipment, that line item? The last column says difference, 111,600.
I didn't budget any machinery and equipment this year. I budgeted 111 last year. We have no equipment until we get to the capital. That difference is last year's budget versus this proposed budget, or this budget versus next year.
Okay, so we're not budgeting anything for machinery and equipment?
Not yet.
We don't need any machinery?
We'll get to capital.
Oh,
All right, next page. Fire department. Is that the next page in your books?
Yes.
All right. Workers' comp, none of them are paid, but workers' comp, of course, is there. Communication is an increase of $1,000. We now have an active 911 system that pages to cell phones, smartphones, tablets, whatever. It's set up so it will go direct, and that's the fee for that. It's also the addition of internet service in the building of the fire hall. Utilities, go
okay,
ahead.
yep. I know they're not paid a salary, but is the call outs and that kind of stuff, they're still paid
They
for
don't,
that?
fire's never been paid call out.
Oh, fire doesn't pay any call outs, okay.
Utilities, 2,500, same. I sat down with Kelly, Maddie, and Brian from the fire department. That's when we came up with this. Now, this spreadsheet was put together about 3 months ago, so if I forget, that's why. Insurance, just the change. Repairs and maintenance, we bumped that up a little bit because we have a truck that's down, or is about to be down, is down.
We repaired most of it last month. It's still not great, but it's there.
This is a fire truck?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a new line item for promotional of $1,000. They want to start doing some fire prevention, some come look at the station, some here's some stuff for kids to, you know, that type of stuff. They want to start a fire prevention program. So that's what that 1,000 would be for. Other current charges, 2,000. Office supplies, they've never had a budget for office supplies, they need one. Operating supplies, 5,000. Uniforms, this is for turnout gear again, so they can start to replace things as it happens.
Okay, so back up.
Back up.
So other supplies and operating supplies, we've always given 5,000, well, not quite, but actual 10,000, actual 867 operating supplies. So so the main difference is the 1,500 office supplies.
Yeah, they don't have office supply. That is to enable them to buy a computer for their reporting. Uniforms, we did that one. Fuel,
What are they using now? You mean a new computer?
they don't have a computer.
At the firehouse?
They don't have an office and they have nothing. I moved that, but part of it's in here still. I split it.
Okay.
So they have no computer at the firehouse right now?
How do they have internet?
They do not.
You're saying we're gonna buy it with this?
That's in here, yeah.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, but right now they just use within City Hall.
Don't really use anything besides their personal at home.
Okay.
And then machinery and equipment, you're gonna have some requests later on in capital, but that's not in here right now. Good with fire? On to police.
I don't know if I would say good, but
We'll talk about that one a
Yeah.
bit later. Police, yeah. Personnel is the usual as always. Moving on, unless we need to talk about it specifically again, but it's gonna get repetitive.
well, I don't want to talk about it except real quick. I want to know how many full-time police officers, Chief, we now have? I know this changes like daily, but what do we got? 7?
It doesn't change daily.
Wow,
Authorized, how many have authorized by budget?
thank you.
That's one code, six officers, one code.
6 full-time officers and 1
Seven,
code
I'm sorry,
of 7,
so.
You forget yourself, chief.
Plus the one code.
and then 1 code
One admin.
and 1 admin. Okay, thank you.
And that's part-time salaries are in there too. So keep that in
So how
mind.
many part-time then?
That, we don't have a set number. That can fluctuate at any time. How many do you have active, do you know?
Active,
Reserves?
2.
2?
Oh,
We've had up to 6 or 7 though at a time.
okay.
All right, overtime. That's an increase. We're at almost 10,000 already this year and we budgeted 6. So we need to increase that line item. We're not getting any slower. The city's not getting any smaller. not getting any quieter. Incentive pay,
And that increase is due to less full-time, part-time workers than we've had, or just that there's more activity in town?
It's a combination of things. I mean, if you look at our recent crimes that have been committed, those officers are having to work over or coming on their off days to finish up reports or
Okay.
evidence or whatever. Everyone from the captain, below the captain, is hourly, including Sergeant Kelly. And Sergeant Kelly works, has worked a lot of these calls that have been on duty when it happens. So when you start talking about him having 18, 19 hours of overtime, you know, in a pay period,
Okay.
you're talking about a lot of money, plus all the CDC events, all the music in the park. None of that is compensated back to the city. That's all out of our budget.
All CDC events.
Yes, sir. Every special event in the city that we attend, we are not compensated for.
Fishing tournaments and all that.
Yes. We're not.
That's something to think about.
But that's always been, that's just not happening this year.
I know. That's,
It's always been.
Yeah, okay.
And I was tongue lashed for bringing up for
oh,
that.
you were?
Oh, Lord.
A little bit worse than tongue lashed, but yes.
When was that?
Well, I can tell you that, people were saying we will have no special events in Mexico Beach if they have to pay for the police.
Oh, really?
Because they're providing the services for the fireworks.
They're providing services to make you have more work, too. I mean, we all like what's going on, but
Yes, sir.
somebody has to pay for it, and so.
Well, that gets back to what you said earlier, talking about the justification, you know, where the money's going. I mean, to ask for an increase, it's hard for people to give up money. And if they're at 8%, they may think 9 would be good, but if you can justify everything or what you might need, that's important.
And they need that to go to the county
Really
commission.
do.
They have
I
to
mean,
justify their numbers.
It's hard to
And I
see.
get that. I was gonna bring this up sooner or later. This seems like now's the time. In all cities, when you have public events, usually the city administration is somehow involved in providing a permit for a special event to be held in town. We've been a small town for a long time, and let's just take the Kingfish tournament as an example. That's put on by Embarra. They're not part of the city. They schedule a Kingfish tournament. They load up town. They load up the boat ramp. They require police protection, EMS protection, all that, but they don't ask us when they want to do that. Somebody's already scheduled the Golly Whopper again for the 6th of June next year. Fantastic, terrible. It overtaxes us again. That's those events people keep talking about. Oh, this is an isolated event. No, it's not. It comes around every year. But nobody asks us, do you have resources to support us? But at the same time, you had to get a permit to have the farmer's market.
And I don't require any police.
And you don't require any police. So something's wrong with our system, is all I'm saying. We need to at least be in a planning loop for everybody that's gonna have special events, whether it's a wine and cheese, or music in the park, what. There's gotta be a buy-off by administration of the city somewhere that says, we need traffic control, we need crowd, we need sanitation. There has to be a departmental sign-off somewhere. If we need an ordinance or if we need a resolution, Mel, I'd kind of throw that back to your court. What do we need? But we've got to do. I'm not saying we regulate all these things. I'm saying that they've got to come to us and let us know what's going on. We don't need to find out after the fact and have to respond, because like right now we're budgeting, and Chief needs to be budgeting for. I'm sure we had all 7 or 9 officers on duty July the 4th.
We had 7.
And had to.
That's everyone that we could get.
And yes, a national holiday, but.
Well, there is a special events permit. It just hasn't, no, they haven't gotten in the habit of
Filling it out.
filling it out, right. And now MBARA does have their captain's meeting at the Beacon Hill Park, but do they require anything for the, oh, yeah, they require it because the weigh-in is here. So they require stuff for that. Do they require police?
Have you ever been to one?
I haven't for the last few years because I
Police.
avoid that.
Police and
But-
traffic
okay.
control is absolutely necessary in the
Okay.
way.
And the problem that we run into, like Dolly Walker, when I was contacted about it, and said, hey, can we get a couple cops down here to help? Sure. But you gotta understand, I mean, I've got to call people in and pay overtime for it. And, you know, we really need to start getting some money for these things like this for traffic control. Well, don't worry about it. We'll handle it. We're not gonna pay the police to come down there. But we have to go anyhow.
Well, maybe we need to, for the events that are not directly affiliated from the city. Now, the special events are directly affiliated from the city, you could say. But the fishing tournaments, maybe they need to be charged police fee. If you want police down there for traffic or whatever, you need to pay a fee, period. And that could be included in our fee charts. Something to think about, as well as having them enforcing the idea that you have a special event, you must fill this form out, otherwise it doesn't go through.
The form does ask if you request the police, but you can check no, but we still have to be there for MBRA. I mean, they're gonna tell us they don't want them, but we need to have them.
Yeah, but you gotta be there because the congestion is so bad.
Well, I think the police chief should be able to decide who needs to be there. It shouldn't be up to them. I mean, and
makes
so,
sense.
you know, if we left it up to them and something happened, then who gets the blame for it? The police chief does.
And I might as well bring up the next dreaded subject. We talked about this room, rented out to people, and we got legal advice about alcohol on these premises, city premises. Guess what? All of our parks and the CDC center, and the city docks, that's city property. They should have a alcohol bond or alcohol insurance at any event.
I have to think about that. All right, so I know the Gumbo Festival, they do. They have some kind of, I don't know how much it is, but I know they get some kind of insurance policy because they have beer.
And the city employees were serving it this last year.
Oh, yeah, they always do.
How about that?
Is that okay? Is that a problem?
No?
Okay. So let's see, what else? All right, so I'm trying to think of the events that,
Music in the park.
Music in the Park does not serve, does not serve beer.
But they sponsor the event, and the event has alcohol at it. People bring alcohol.
People bring alcohol like they do to the beach. So
They do.
does that mean people
Well, that's
have
different,
to? Yeah, so does that mean people have to have,
Police, yes.
no, I'm saying,
No, they don't have to have insurance to go to the beach with alcohol.
right, so I don't know what the difference is between people bringing their own.
I guess I'm really, it would be limited then to the vendor supplied alcohol.
Yeah, I agree. So if they supply alcohol, then they have to have, and I think that is the case now. Now, I do not know what, let's see, the weigh-in for the Kingfish, that's, no alcohol is served. I don't know, the Golly Whopper, I don't know if they serve alcohol there. I don't know that. I've never gone.
The Art and Wine
There's a-
Festival would be.
There's a bud trailer. There's a bud trailer.
Okay, so that
Yeah.
needs to be addressed, yeah. Art and Wine, which we haven't had,
But we'll have it this fall, so.
hopefully. So yeah, so I agree. So first of all, they have to fill out the application. And then, you know, that has to be addressed. I agree. I'm not opposed to charging some kind of special events fee. It's not going to cover
No.
any kind of expense.
It will.
Wow.
It'll
Our
cover,
policy-
it'll cover something, I'm sorry.
Our policy states that anytime that we work a special detail or a special event, $25 an hour, 4-hour minimum call out per officer.
But I'm saying, if we so what would you propose charging the group that has the special event?
Depends.
However many officers is
Whatever it takes.
So if you're saying 2 officers and they happen to be, if the fishing tournament there is 4 hours, $200.
Yeah.
Well,
And maybe CDC could help offset that cost.
no, I think the fishing, well, it could be.
CDC already is offsetting their costs.
Yeah.
Okay.
CDC contributes megabucks to every single fishing tournament.
Yeah, the Golly Whopper got $4,000 this year alone.
Everyone
from
has
CDC.
gotten 5,000.
Really?
All they do is write a letter, we're requesting $5,000 from CDC, and yes,
Well,
We did it in one easier.
That's all.
yes, you're
nice,
right.
yeah.
They can't get the flags, but they can.
Well, it's way past time that you get reimbursed for this time. And I like the idea of filling out all these things so the chief can see this coming down the line well in advance. And I think the city should be in charge of approving or not approving. I mean, 95% of the time, we're gonna approve it.
Right.
Because if history has it and it's done well, why oppose it? I'm not opposing that. It's just that we need to pay for things where the cost is generated. Anyway,
And the $25 is basically the officer's rate of pay at time and a half,
So $25 is time and a half.
pretty much. What it would equate to if we paid it.
Okay. And let's say the Gumbo Festival. What kind of, I mean, how many police officers and,
And once we get it off the highway, that's going to improve.
that's going to improve to a point, but you'll still have the traffic issue. You'll still have the parking issue, no
We'll have-
matter what.
Oh, we'll have 55 parking spaces at the new park. It'll be away from the highway, no barricades that Philip's been having to put up. The police literally helping people come across the street.
Yeah, I mean,
It'll be
you still
reduced.
have to have that, yeah.
We have 6 to 8 officers during the Gumbo Festival. We have 3 traffic crossings.
I think
Still
what,
can't.
Got to get it off the highway this year.
And the music in the park is the same way.
Well, music in the park. So can I sidestep just a little bit here? I'm sorry, but it is sort of budget related. We kind of switch it into that. So the park. So I look at the contract this morning because they had a special events meeting. 180 days, 210 days to get the park done. Do you think it's going to take that long?
No. I talked to the contractor Friday, and the engineer, all the surveys already finished. They already got the bulldozers on site. They got the log trucks coming this week. No, it is not going to take that long.
Because we got September in the park coming up in September.
That may be close.
maybe it's October at the park.
And October, we, special events would like to have the Art and Wine Festival again. Oh, but we're not gonna do it.
This is phase one. It's not going to be anything but the grading, the bathrooms, the parking, the driveway. It's not going to be,
We're not doing the pavilion?
don't have any money for that. It's not in this contract.
Oh, I thought it was. Okay. Okay.
Have room for tents, huh?
oh, absolutely. I mean, they can bring their own tents. What,
Yeah,
what,
I mean, it's,
when you go to any other art festival, that's what you have.
So, you talked to him, so does he have any kind of an idea?
No, I was really talking to the engineers when I was talking to them. The other guys are already working, and they're already back on site this morning working.
Because we've got a lot of things coming up that we could certainly
So-
use that park
Yes.
for. Okay.
But I do think maybe we could tie all this in. October 1st, we have a new code, we have a new list of fees, and then require them to turn in that form,
yeah.
plus an additional money for the police.
But it's also not just police, I mean, you gotta think about public works too.
Yes.
I mean, Public Works has to go out and do the sanitation, they do the pickup, the dumpsters and everything else.
Mhm.
Now, Pam or Bill that has to go out
dollar for dollar what we spend out, but absolutely, I agree with you.
But it's time, I think what we're all saying is it's time to get a little more tight. We do need to look at folks thinking of a bigger picture too, and what they're putting on us. Yeah, I'm sorry, Lisa, go ahead.
I'm going to address this from a resident's standpoint. We've reached the point, and I think we all realize, this comes from experience of 20 years handling special events. I've handled literally hundreds of them. We've reached the point where we have to face the fact that we have changed from a sleepy little fishing town where you could just go do whatever you wanted, to the point where we are overrun with tourists at this time. We have all of these fishing tournaments, which are great. Everybody loves the fishing tournaments. They have a very good reason for being here. But with this kind of growth comes the added need for infrastructure and the expense that goes with that. So it is way past time for the city to look at charging some of these expenses so that we can cover a portion of these costs. Police, garbage pickup, whatever it takes. And you're on the right track by looking at that because the residents shoulder a great deal of that burden.
That's
and
right.
We're tired of it. We're glad to see it, but there's got to be some kind of a happy medium here. So you're going to, of course, irritate the people who put on these tournaments
Right.
because they've gotten away with it for years.
Thank you.
But, you know, those folks are going to have to face the fact that their success breeds more costs. And so I applaud you for looking at this from a resident standpoint because we don't think we should have to pay for it this much. And you've got to face the facts. The city is going in the hole with every one of these events. And while we fight to keep Mexico Beach the small town that it is, there are some things that are inevitable, and costs are going to be one of those inevitable things. So the more you can charge, I don't care how much the tournaments screen, I don't care how much the CDC screens, CDC's partially responsible because they advertise it to the point where we are flooded with people. Let them screen, and they decide that they need to back out, then okay, there's always going to be another fishing tournament that wants to come in here. So it's going to be a period of adjustment, but yes, please continue to pursue the fact that these costs must be shared. I thank you for looking at that.
I appreciate your comments too. It's good to hear the citizens recognize that too. And while we're off the topic right here, these ladies right here and the Special Events Committee did a fantastic job with the run. 555 people came to Mexico Beach to run a race. And at the same time, EMS was there, an ambulance was there, Bay County was there, all the police department was there, parking all over the world. It was a tremendous effort by a lot of people.
And very few Mexico Beach residents.
I'm too
Very
old.
few Mexico Beach.
But kind of on that same topic, we did attempt to start doing this with the Civic Center fee, and being it was a public event, we didn't want to charge.
Isn't that
I
amazing?
mean, that was step one, and we didn't vote for it,
Isn't that
so.
amazing? Okay, let's please move along a little bit.
Incentive pay. That is based on education for officers, we get that back. Taxes, same thing. Retirement. I'm gonna give you some numbers on retirement, just so you can understand why these percentages are so goofy. The city retirement rates came out about 3 weeks ago for what we pay in to the state. They set it every year. It is 7.52% for general class employees. It is 21.77% for administrative employees, and it is 22.57% for police employees. So that's what that number is calculated on, depending on the fund. Health insurance, again,
Wait a minute, what would general class be?
everybody besides police, Mel and Adrian.
Oh, I thought you were talking about this, okay. Gotcha.
Health insurance, again, is based on live employees that we have and what they're using. Workers' comp is the percentage increase. Getting down into the expense, Chief did a pretty good job of, we kept pretty much very minimal changes over the year. Investigation stayed the same. Travel went down 500. Communication stayed the same. Utilities stayed the same. Rentals and leases, we did this across, as we talked about. If we need equipment or things that we need to rent, we upped it. And then we did that on everything. Insurance, it stayed the same. It could go up $700, but I'm not worried about it. Repairs and maintenance stayed the same. Printing, that went up just to have the ability to use it. Promotional, we've never budgeted here. We have spent money here. This is something I guess we should talk about. There's like some promotional things they do, like that they're gonna start fire prevention in the fire department. They do the national night out and stuff, and we don't budget for it. Relay for Life, we don't budget for it. Do we wanna budget some money for promotional activity for the police department?
What does the chief think?
We used to have things like the little junior badges, little plastic we could hand out, or the little stickers that said Mexico Beach Junior Police Officer. It was a good, we take it to all the events and hand them out to the kids. They loved it. Or we seen the kids walking alongside the road with their parents, we stopped, talked to them, and just had that, established that contact with them as a friendly police officer. And, yeah, I'd like to have some things like that again. We have very little stickers, very few stickers left. That's the reason we don't do it anymore, because we start handing out one, then
You run out. You're
300 kids and you don't have that many left. So, yeah, I'd like to have some promotional stuff.
I would step out on a ledge here and say, if you have some kind of a small budget for that kind of stuff, I mean, I can think of one lady, and you probably can too, who would write you a check tomorrow. You know, I'm just saying that if you give me a budget, for items like that, I'll be willing to bet you can get donations in a heartbeat that would cover that plus more. I mean, I can think of one lady who would do it. She would be thrilled to help out with something. Just a thought.
How much you want? $400 or $500?
So, I was gonna say 1,000.
And then we can put it in the budget. If we do get donations, just put it in the revenue for donation. But we
Right.
still have to expense it out of here, so $1,000 and then,
Yeah,
Yeah, I
think
think
that's fine
there may
with
be
me.
several people that would donate to that.
absolutely, my goodness gracious.
And where would you spend money for community-oriented policing, educational type thing? Where would you put that in a budget?
promotional,
Promotional
yeah.
or, other current charges.
I like promotional.
I like promotion.
Because that's something nationally that's obviously become necessary.
Yes, it is.
All right. Surprise, Chief, sorry. Didn't tell you I was bringing that up. Other current charges, the same. Office supplies, up $250. You'll see that in all the office supplies. We brought them up slightly. Operating supplies stays the same. Uniforms, we increased 3,000, and we had a reason for that. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, this is an example of what we've had for years and years and years. We got a grant, the one grant that I was able to get, actually I've had two grants. The two $1,000 grants, that's when we bought the nylon gear, so we could spray it off instead of real pretty shiny leather gear. We can take this nylon gear and just spray it off and let it dry real quick. Lasts a lot longer. And we also bought the cargo style pants and the gray polos. That was, I had to tweak the wording and stuff in the grant because I had to prove it wasn't augmenting the budget for the police department. Instead of us budgeting for uniforms, us with, it's like the military ripstop. It's a lightweight uniform. They have pins, almost like a Columbia shirt in the back. It has that pin in the back. And an external carrier that does not look as tactical as the ones that you see some of the officers wearing. This has the badge and police and then the police on the back. This looks like a uniform shirt. You just put your vest panels inside it and ties on here on the side with Velcro. So all these things in mind, we want to get rid of all these polyesters. We want to get something that's useful and durable and lightweight for the guys and girls to be out on the beach. Even if they went out with a dark top and bottom, they can still breathe them. So, and we also always have to buy vests for a new employee. So, unless the vest will fit someone else, but female vests are especially ordered for females at their size. Guys are too. So, guys are pretty universal, and we can swap them around some. Right now, we have a need to buy 3 vests. We do have the 50/50 grant from the Department of Justice, and we did get our $1,009 back from the vest we bought this fiscal year. But so when we buy a vest, we get 50% of that money back. It takes us a while to get it back, but we do get it back. So in saying all that, that's what I'm trying to do, is get the officers raincoats, uniforms that's more useful and cooler, and have a more professional appearance. We'll look just like these, except they'll be lightweight.
And we're not gonna buy ATVs out of the uniform budget.
No, sir. We bought cars out of that. Till we sell these other ones, then the money will get back in the uniforms.
Fuels and lubricants? We're good? We're happy? Books, publications, and education, we just changed that 1,000. And LEE expenditures. LEE money is, there's $2 for every ticket the city writes, the cops write, we get $2 back. It has to be dedicated to specific things. We can't spend that money unless we budget to be expended. It's just like those other separate accounts, it's kept in a separate bank account. So we budgeted 1,000 to allow us to bring it in without having to do an amendment if we do want to spend that money, and it's very strict what it can be spent on, so.
So we only get $2
$2
out of any ticket.
That's just for that fund.
for that fund. There's the fine fund too, but
The
that's
fine-
not restricted. This one is. This is for law enforcement education.
And I'd like to make a point, Mr. Jerry, if I could, on the fines. At the beginning of the discussion, if you'll look at what we budgeted since 2014 for fines and forfeitures of $2,000 a month, or $2,000 a year, I'm sorry. If you could just look back real quick.
Page 2.
I apologize for making you look back, but
It's on page 2. It's the second revenue sheet.
yeah, it's under revenue. If you'll look at 2013, we had 2,773.75 come in. 2014 actual, we had 81.29. 15, 67.42. We budgeted or adopted 2,000 for 16, and we're already up to 65.85. So it's definitely working. This money goes into the general fund and can be spent anywhere. But just like the mayor brought up, we had to do some line items, moving around, pick up those 2 used chargers. And, you know, if we go back and take the fine money, we could pay off the money that
that like a guaranteed thing, or is that if you can get it from them?
If the judge awards it.
Okay.
The state attorney is aware that we do have this sheet. Sometimes they make them pay it, sometimes they don't. Whenever the state attorney lets people off with a letter of apology, then you're not gonna get your,
So if you get some from that, does that go into the fines?
it goes back to
Refund of expenditures?
refund of expenditures.
Okay, okay.
So it actually goes back into our
Okay,
expense for the police department.
okay,
So we are not technically generating revenue, but we are
right, getting reimbursed.
getting reimbursed for criminals being criminals.
Oh, you should.
Instead of waiting on probation.
Right.
Pay it as part of their fines.
And the capital we'll get into later. Next page is code.
Before we move on from police, I met with Bay County EOC Friday, last week anyway. And there might be a budget item changing on the police side because we're looking at moving the communications equipment from that little shed under the water plant or under the water tower into the public works building. It'll be better secured, it'll be in climate controlled environment, and we'll have a better power supply to it, which is a lot of our problems. So they're working up a price. I'll get that to you as soon as I can.
Also, the radios that we discussed last fiscal year.
That's coming up later. We'll get there.
Okay.
You're talking the 800s, right? Yeah, that's coming up. All right, code. It's the usual on the top, all the way down. All right, travel, same, because that, we want to send our code enforcement officer to get the license. We've budgeted for this for 2 years now. We haven't sent anybody yet, so we're budgeting for it again. Communications the same, rentals and leases, I removed it. I have no idea what you're gonna rent and lease in that department, so we took the 50 out. Insurance is there, repairs and maintenance. $500 doesn't repair anything. So we increased it to $1,500 in case something happens to a vehicle, whatever.
So, can I ask a question? Because I think the code person confuses me because they're code and they're police, so that confuses me.
Well, we've had discussions at the office of absorbing the code budget into police and just combining it into one. Are we gonna talk about that here? Or?
Kind of need direction from the board whether that's acceptable or not. Because the question is, we're content with the code being under the police and under their control, but I'm not sure the whole board is. And do you expect that to last for years, or do you want it back to where their own little separate kingdom?
So when Chief, you were talking about the police and you mentioned 7 full-time, 1 code. So part of the code salary came from you, okay,
No,
okay,
this is just the code salary in this one.
all right.
But that's, the direction is, do we want to absorb code, eliminate the line item, put it all police, or what do we want to do?
As has been said before, all police officers are code enforcement officers. I think it's a direct quote in the past. And so that's an absolute correct statement. So do you want that to be under the police?
What do you think?
I think it's an absolutely good use of budgeting under the police.
But before we came to this meeting and I put it together, I wanted it separate because if you saw those huge increases, I could hear the council saying, why are they increasing? This shows it separately, but put them together.
Well, actually, if you combine code with police department, some of these functions in this will be less if they're combined with police department.
Potentially. I don't know how much of it.
Some of the administrative operating things, and they technically are now. Now, I'm glad you broke this out because I made a comment the other day and somebody called my hand on it. I said that every employee in Mexico Beach costs us at least $40,000. This is a very prime example. We don't pay them $40,000. But just the value of this employee is $53,626. Every employee in Mexico Beach is at least $40,000. So if we add one, You can't get one for less than 40 grand. Here's a good example of 53 for one person. The code enforcement officer might not always be a police officer. Lately, we've had a couple. It could be anybody, but still, a certified code officer, I think the correct place is in the police department. We've wrestled this back and forth. I think that's where it should be personally.
Makes sense
And all of
to me.
our ordinances do say, all the ordinances does say that, police officers are code enforcement officers. So,
Right. And I understand that, but here's, I guess this is what confuses me. So if I were her, him, it's her right now. So when, I guess, you know, when she's acting as a police officer, is she getting, so how does she get paid, I guess is my thing. So let's say she's at a call, a police call. Is she getting police officer pay or is she getting code pay?
She's, yeah.
It's the same, it's no matter what. So she's basically like you guys, she's on call all the time. She can respond anytime.
right.
She can respond anytime. And if she responds to anything, whether it's a code violation or a police call, she is paid this salary.
By the code budget. That's why if we
By the
absorb her into
code budget.
police, then it's all just one.
Okay, so, all right, so let me talk about my code.
You're arguing our argument for us right now.
Okay, well, let me talk about my code problems. I don't think that and part of my problem comes because she's in a police uniform, so I feel like, I don't know, I just kind of feel like it's taken her down a notch. Maybe that's just me personally. She may not feel that way, but for, you know, a police officer in her uniform to be going out there looking at landscaping, I don't know, it just gives me I just don't like it. You know what I'm saying, Chief?
Actually, I've got some of the same feedback from a different citizen on a completely different issue. It wasn't landscaping, but it was, the officer came and did a code inspection. It was on a building issue. She had on her gun, she had on her uniform.
Yes, I've heard that.
But it was clearly a building violation where somebody had done work on a building.
Mm-hmm.
And the resident responded to me, was like, "Oh, why you send a cop to my house? It made me look like I was some sort of criminal." No, it's a code enforcement officer. And I get it. My only concern about putting her under the police department all the time is, and when she's got on a police uniform, am I getting my 40 hours for code for
Yes.
$60-something thousand a year? I want my 40 hours worth of code. We changed it to full-time because we have code issues. And by the way, she's doing an excellent job at what she does. But I get it. Maybe in uniforms, maybe she needs to wear something different when she's being a code officer.
And then you'll get the complaints of if she's armed with a badge on.
She doesn't need to wear a gun and a badge to be the code officer.
But what if she's required all of a sudden to go help the police do
Right,
something?
yeah, see, that's where I think
Yeah,
it
but
gets
that's
to
not
be
a primary
kind of
job, though.
yeah, it's kind of a sticky wicket there. So, so that's one of my concerns. And then at some point in time, and I think we'll probably get to this, is the duties of the code enforcer. And I threw landscaping out there because I have a real problem with our code enforcer acting as a surveyor if they are taking measurements, that kind of thing, for new construction. So Gulf County, I'm not sure about Bay County. I didn't have any reason to call Bay County, but Gulf County, I know, requires an after-built survey, so that the homeowner has to, as soon as the home is finished in construction, before they get a CO, they have to have another survey, which would, so that we don't have to have a code officer going out and measuring setbacks and impervious. That should be a surveyor that does that.
Well, it should be the building department that does it anyway.
Well, but the building department doesn't do that. They do not do that. That's a surveyor's job, so the building department does not do that. I think landscaping should be a part of the building department's contract, and perhaps we can talk about their contract. But that would be a surveyor's job. And right now, we don't require, Mexico Beach does not require an after-built survey. So am I right, and I'll ask Mark, and you may know, Chief, you've had to go out there and do measurements like that? Yeah. See,
We came up with the steps problem. Remember the step on the new house where the steps had to be turned?
I don't know who
That was
came up
building
with that.
department early on, but reason we don't have an after is because we have it during. The building department has to be there in various phases. The roof,
Yes.
the structure, the framing goes up, the roof goes on, and there's inspections. So they already know it's in the right place along the way.
And post-build and inspection before CO, the code enforcement officer has to go out, there's a sheet that I've had to do when we didn't have a code officer, for landscaping, as far as the grass or the impervious amount of ground that
Right.
taken up into the yard, the number of trees, or the lot size.
Where do you get that sheet from? You said you had a sheet with a list of items that you had to check as
Building
code
department.
enforcer?
It was one that we had made up
Oh,
a while back. Philip,
okay.
Ms. Royce, and myself sat down.
Why didn't the building department do that?
Well, because it's not in their contract. What they say, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just kind of pulling this from past conversations, they check for they're there to inspect the building, make sure it complies with building code and not Mexico Beach code, which is the landscaping and that kind of stuff. So I don't know if we can somehow, I don't know about the ECPI's contract or whenever that expires or has to be renewed or whatever, but I do think that, I just think that's craziness. An after-built survey wouldn't be financially burdensome for a homeowner, because all the surveyor has to do is, update that, an after-built survey.
What would it cost?
$200, yeah. So that then we have I'll give you an example of when I first started to think about that, is I was selling a lot. The house next door, I go to see the plans because it looks to me like the driveway encroaches. So I go to see the plans, Royce pulls the plans, and there's extra concrete that goes into the setbacks, which is not allowed. But there it is. So an after-built, post-built, after-built survey would make sure that they complied without it being 5 years down the road, and then they have to tear up their driveway. See what I'm saying? So to me, it would answer a lot of questions. It's not an additional cost, not much of an additional cost to a homeowner to have an after-built survey, and then we don't have to measure setbacks. We don't have to check landscaping is a completely different issue, but to me, it would just behoove us to just require upon CO that you have an after-built survey. Who does it hurt? I did talk to Bo about it, and I think he's in agreement with that. Just something to throw out there.
I don't see it changing the responsibility of our code officer just the same. For city codes, they've got to go and do, we let landscaping go for 2 years, and now it's a mess. We've got all kind of new houses in town, and now they're all bucking. I'm getting plenty of calls. Oh, now you're saying I got to put in trees. You knew you had to put in trees before. You were told, but you just didn't do it. We're going round and round with that, and that is truly a city code person that needs to do that, apparently, because Bo don't want to do it.
Yeah, but does Bo do it in other cities? And I don't know that. I have
don't know.
no idea. But I'm wondering if that could be a part of his contract with us.
I'm not sure we get our money's worth out of that company.
I'm with you there, Tom. I wasn't going down that road, but
Well, gee, we agreed, because I've caught Bo on serious, bad building problems since I've been there. building a duplex on a single family
I've
lot,
been in
building
real
a
estate
house
since
too tall.
2001, and I can tell you there's been
no.
problems.
Yeah, those are serious problems,
So we can put that contract out for bid.
and I'm not opposed to that. I am not opposed to that.
So if that's, I'm
not even-
assuming, and this may be a Mel question, but if we can put that contract out for bid, do you know anything about does he have a contract for how long, that kind of stuff?
I think it's one of those perpetual things where as long as you give 36-a-day notice, you can get out of it.
Okay, then perhaps we could write a bid that includes landscaping.
I'm not so sure that it's not close to time for us to hire a city engineer and let him do all of the building inspections and all that stuff that they're doing, and do some of this other stuff too.
I'm
But
thinking-
I don't know what we paid him this last year, I bet you know. But it's a good chunk of change.
Who knows?
We didn't pay him anything. They pay him, he pays us.
Same difference, but it's still,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, in turn, we would have the money for the building permits and we'd pay it to the engineer who could do it, a professional engineer.
And I have no idea what dollar amount that is, because I only see the commission we get.
Yeah, I'm not sure that if we hire an engineer, I mean, now you're talking an expense. I don't know, we'd have to investigate that a little bit. It used to be the Bay County Building Department did all of Mexico Beach, which wasn't a great
But if
thing.
we had our own P, we're paying Purple Ridge, Dewberry, a bunch of money too.
Yeah, so now you want to add an engineering cost to inspect buildings?
No, I'm talking about hiring an engineer and quit contracting everything out. Have a staff engineer.
So you're gonna pay engineering dollar amounts versus a building inspector dollar amount. I'm sure an engineer's gonna charge more per hour than a building inspector does.
I'll give you a good idea what I'm talking about.
We wouldn't be paying
The water
engineering.
grant that we have, the alternate water source grant, $1.5 million. The administrative cost of that for Dewberry is $212,000.
Yeah.
And it has to be done in the next 12 months or we're gonna lose that $1.5 million. How much you gonna pay an engineer to go do that work?
About $200,000.
We're not gonna pay them anything, it's part of the grant.
Yeah, that administrative grant is, all administrative grants are not included in the grant fund, but that one is.
Most
correct?
of them are.
Yeah.
The
Okay,
engineering
from time to
services
time,
rate
we're gonna-
engineering is what is included.
grants are gonna pay for the engineer is what you're saying.
I'm saying they could pay part of it, yes.
Back to, I think your question was engineering fees and all that. What he's suggesting is making them an employee, not a contract,
Right.
an employed engineer. So we're gonna pay them a salary.
Quit paying Dewberry, quit paying the other company and let
Oh, I
our
see what
engineer
you're
do
saying.
all
Well, we
of it.
need to run the numbers on that. I don't know how else you would do that. You'd have to run the numbers on that. I don't know how you do that. How do you run the numbers on that?
Well, It's pretty easy, you can find out what professional engineers make, and then run their
Create a
expenses against it and see how it comes out. We have,
Well, if we continue to get grants, that's
All right, so I have to
important.
think about that. So I think we need to, I think it's a good thing to explore. I'm certainly not opposed to exploring that. Okay.
So back to the
About
original
that.
question, are code and police going to be one budget or not?
I love these workshops.
Oh, me too.
I don't have a problem, but maybe the chief needs to look at it in detail. Because I agree with Mary, we don't need to portray Gestapo if we're just simply inspecting a setback.
Right, and the only response that I'll give is when we discuss combining a police and code officer with Sergeant Bailey, he was always in uniform.
Oh, yeah, it's not just because it changed. I mean, I think that's been, I think since it's been a police officer, that's been the,
But this was a twofold thing for us to be able to provide,
Saving money.
I mean, you've got two officers Monday through Friday. She's from 7:30 to 4:30, or depending on if she works something else over or whatever. But you have her, I'd say 90% of the time she's doing code. The inspections,
responds wherever she needs to be responding. And I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to that. I think if we take, inspections off of her, new construction inspections off of whoever this person is, I think, to me, that's,
But there's a lot of other inspections at home, fence permits.
I'm not talking about those kinds of things. I'm talking about new construction, basically, taking that.
But you want her in a different uniform, which I don't necessarily disagree with that.
Yeah, and I think the uniform is an issue. So, I don't know how you would address that, though. How are you gonna address that?
How about just putting in the back, on your shirts, the police code enforcer, so that people, if they see her someplace, they don't think of police right away. Oh, that's what she's doing here. Simple as that, because from what I'm hearing you saying, you'd like her to carry her weapon. It would be convenient for her to carry her weapon rather than keeping it in the car.
This allowed us to add an officer without adding an officer. It prevented us from having on the budget request another full-time officer. I mean, that's, when we talk about it saved us money, that's how it saved us money, is we enabled us to have somebody else to respond to calls. But being she is an officer, her retirement needs to be paid at the officer rate, so that is a 15% increase over what it would be for a normal code officer. But again, in the long run, it saves us money by not adding another cop. If that was the mentality behind it.
90% you say is code, chief. So 10% of the time she could slide into a jacket or something that says police, zip it up and take off.
You never know when those times are gonna come.
Or have a cape, But, I mean, if that's just 10% of the time,
Maybe you've thought a lot about this more than I have. It hadn't been a mountain to me because I just considered code as a police officer anyway. And I explained that to citizens, and they didn't agree with you. But
well, I don't know that I agree with you either. I mean, when somebody's coming to look at my construction in my backyard, I don't really expect to see somebody carrying a gun. I'm thinking, well, God, if I make a mistake here, is he gonna shoot me? That's a little ridiculous, just a little. But
So, if we took that part of their job and gave that to the building inspector, and then the code enforcer, I know the call, I got the same call that you did about her coming up to this person's house. He was extremely offended that a police officer was sent. That's how he took it. I don't know how you get around that. So if we're gonna have a police officer as a code enforcer, I have no idea how you would get around the uniform thing. I don't think you can. So I can live with that.
We can put it back up under Public Works.
Say it again.
We can put code enforcement back up under Public Works.
I don't think that, yeah, but she'd still be a police officer, so she needs to wear her no.
If you move it away from the police department, it's not gonna be.
I see what you're
That was
saying.
another question about code enforcement. Is it staying under the police? That's what he was asking.
I see.
Or is it in the future going to go back to
Somewhere else.
a
Yeah.
certified code enforcement?
If our
officer that just goes up and does code?
If our intent isn't to put it part of the police, then I need to keep this budget, but if our intent is to make it part of the police department, let's get rid of it and put it into that.
Okay, so what would happen if, right now, we have the code enforcer that's also police? What happens if that person decides to leave and we hire just a code enforcer that has no police background? If we have already changed it to the police, that will create a problem for us, correct? Because we would have to move all of that out under Public Works.
You would?
If we chose to do it that way, we wouldn't have to hire somebody that don't have any police experience.
But it's a 50-50 chance that you will or you won't. I mean,
It's 100% your decision on what you want to do.
But let me bring this up to you. The uniform seems to be a sticky one.
A little.
Who answers calls after 4:30 for code violations?
Police,
Who answers them on weekends?
police.
Police.
Well, you're talking about loose dogs, dogs on the beach, that kind of thing. You're not talking about,
Talking about boat ramp, I'm talking about golf carts, I'm talking about everything.
yeah, I agree. And I don't, that's okay with me. That's okay with me. So hold on, shoot, you just brought something up to me. Hold on.
You ever thought about volunteer policemen?
We have reserve.
What?
We have reserve.
My son's a volunteer policeman in Peoria.
Oh, I know what I was going to ask.
He went through all the training and all that. He has 4 kids. I don't know when he has time to do this. He does about 40, 45 hours a week. Most of his time is done helping with traffic, the insignificant part of being a policeman, so that the policemen have time to focus in on what they need to focus in on, which I thought he was crazy for doing this, but he said there's about 15 or 20 volunteers in the county there, and they go through the training. He carries a gun. Of course, he's always going to be a policeman too.
Hold that thought. Lisa, you've been on hold for a minute.
Yes, again, from a citizen's standpoint, it appears that you have 2 questions, and one of them is you need to look at what the building department should shoulder, which y'all are getting to that because you're looking at what to do with the building department. Because a lot of the overlap seems to be with code, but you're also dealing with a public perception problem that you have with a code enforcer, an officer, showing up as a police officer. From my standpoint, I like the code enforcement being under the police department because they can take care of any kind of violation that they see wherever they are. It seems to be a great benefit that she is able to answer calls for backup or for whatever else she is needed for, and she has to be in uniform or needs to be in uniform with her equipment to do that. I think people are very confused, the citizenry are very confused about who the code enforcement officer is and what they do. Half of the people don't realize that our current code enforcement is under the police department. They really don't get that. And in a lot of places, they're not accustomed to that. So you have a public perception problem or a public education problem that we need to work on letting the people understand that all police officers are code enforcement officers, and our current code officer is a police officer. So yes, she may appear at your house in uniform, but she needs to be in uniform because she may have to go help somebody do something, or she may have to go chase somebody while she's at your house doing that. But it's not because we're sending a police officer to your house because you have a code violation. Shame on you. There's a public perception problem there. I think personally they need to keep it under the police department because you're getting a twofer. You're getting a police officer who can respond at any time and be backup while she's doing code. So it's a great twofer, and in the long run saves the city. But perhaps she needs something with code enforcement as well on it. I think if people understood how it's set up, they would have much less resistance to the fact that an armed police officer is coming to their house to look at a code violation. Because people just don't understand right now how it's set up. So I think that's really the big issue here. So that's just from a citizen standpoint.
If you look at the vehicle, it says code enforcement.
People don't look at that.
Can't get much bigger on the side.
Yeah.
It also says police within their big emblem on the back.
That's the first thing we're going to see, is police.
You're already getting a twofer off of your code, her doing code work. I've talked to people who have been cited by code. I think the uniform itself has got a level of respect for the code
Yes,
officer that we haven't had in the past. And like those fishermen I was telling Chuck about in the canal, they were looking for her. They knew that she was gonna ride them up, they threw the fish heads in the canal. I'm so pleased at that, to be honest with you.
I don't think I've ever lived in a city where police did the code enforcement on residential situations.
But we're a tiny town, we got a
Well, I know, I'm just making that statement that, you know.
Everyone says Mexico Beach is unique. Here's another
Yeah,
example.
but you let her pull up on my street, and maybe we're not as nosy as some streets, but I think a lot of the time around here, if they pull up on the street, you're gonna see golf carts show up and people driving, what's going on, you know? And I think Lisa will agree, we're a nice little knit community, but we're also very, very bad at getting information around to people. They don't ever read the back of their water bill, never. I was educating my street this week. Everybody set their garbage out on Tuesday, and it clearly said, set it out on Wednesday on the back of the bill. And so my next door neighbor, you know, finally put his back and set it out on Wednesday, but everybody else was setting theirs out early. So nobody reads. When we try to educate them, they don't pay attention.
I know, and that's why it's a continuing public
Yeah,
perception problem.
right.
I wouldn't say that. I just got an issue with that statement.
So go ahead.
I wouldn't say that.
I got a great idea.
As a budgetary question,
budgetary
to
process.
manage the budget, can I combine this into one?
No, just leave it the way it is.
Done.
Let the code person works for you. We'll figure this out later.
As far as the who's what, I don't care. I just need to know where you want it
Just
financially.
leave it separate. You got it separate now. That's the way it's working now. It accommodates the whole process.
Yeah, it's not gonna make any difference,
It doesn't
right,
matter. This is
number-wise.
just for
Sounds like
us,
a-
where we're
Okay,
billing
okay,
something.
yep, yep.
Are we going to continue to have meetings or, what do we call them? Workshop meetings? or-
Yeah.
ESU, are we ready to roll?
All right.
Yes, you.
In the beginning of this, I'm going to say this to disclaim right away. This is going to be the same as police and code. Do we want to combine ESU and fire? With that said, let's get into this. All right. Last year with the whole shifting of how this worked and all of that, I kind of was under the gun and rushed together numbers. This is much more concrete. The salaries line item is the full-time employee salaries. The next line item is the volunteer salaries. That is the $100 per shift.
Okay.
That's why it's separate and it looks like these huge fluxes and differences. Taxes are based on the revenue, retirement's just based on the percent change, health insurance, same thing, workers' comp. All right, personnel's easy. Communication. They have the coordinator. Okay.
Sorry. So, personnel is easy, but we went from 10,000 actual volunteer salaries in 2015 to 58,000 in
Because you used to pay them $1 an hour.
because we used to pay them $1 an hour.
Now you pay them $100 per shift.
Okay.
That's from last year's budget. Do you remember all that good stuff?
I do remember all
Okay.
that, yes.
That's why it's the significant change. Communication. The coordinator has a cell phone, and the on-call person has a cell phone. For some reason, it was never being billed to the department. It is now. That's why it goes from 0 to 1,500. Next line down, utilities, there's none. Insurance, there's none. Or not insurance, rentals and leases, there's none. Insurance is your car insurance and typical percent change. Repairs and maintenance is the same. Operating supplies is the same. Uniforms. That's an increase because we only had $100 and now you have a significant number of part-time people. And the next one down is fuels and lubricants, and that's with the increase of holiday weekends and such. I mean, there's even budget in here for 2 people on 4th of July weekend. We ran all weekend, so that's part of that.
That seems like a lot of money.
Which one?
Fuel
Fuel?
for one vehicle?
It's usually 4,065. There's 2 vehicles.
For one vehicle.
2 vehicles. That's coming in capital.
Ah,
We'll get there.
okay.
I have a question back.
Yes, ma'am.
Again, back at communication, the same kind of question I had before. I know they have their city phones. Is there a way that we're making sure that we are not paying for their private calls on their city phones?
No.
That's just boils down to police and the phone bills.
They also have radios, true. Is that in the communication budget?
Mm-hmm. We done with that? All right, this side of the table's done. We're going to Philip's side. General maintenance.
Anyway, what about fire?
We did that one already. Report page.
I thought we already combined it.
Oh, combining ESU and fire into one.
I thought we already did that. Is not Mark the coordinator?
position, yes, the budget, no.
Making the department all one. There's two different departments.
You want to combine the fire budget and the ESU budget into one and run it that way.
Well, the impact fees are one.
Combined. I
For
agree.
ESU and fire. And matter of fact, that was a big consternation about that 2 years ago. How much is fire and how much is ESU? And if you put them in one department, wouldn't it be a whole lot easier to use the impact fund?
Well, it seems very normal to be a fire and rescue instead of two separate departments. That's just common sense, I would think, but it's always been separate. But we want to put them together. Well, it used to be with you and then split out.
To be with.
I think fire ESU is the same difference.
Is there a downside to combining those departments?
I don't see a downside at all. I think it's an upside because, as we've said before, the fire department really doesn't have any representation on the administration. So by having someone coordinating both departments, I think that's a positive for the fire.
And we're also going to use it for a way to increase the numbers of our volunteer firefighters, because if we combine them together, we'll make them all be trained for medical and fire. And I think almost all of the ESC volunteers are firefighters.
It makes sense to me, but so why aren't we that way now?
It was Department of Public Safety.
And then when that
It all
split,
fell up under Chief Hall, and then it fell up under me when I became chief. And then
2002, it did the whole. 2013 or 2012, not 12. Missed one. Sorry.
2012, it became ESU and fire
and police.
and police.
We used to have a very robust bunch of good old boys that were our firemen.
Was that the time when they put it under helper?
Yes, that's when the whole
Took
thing.
the chief out from under the administrator?
Yes.
I mean, the council, sorry.
Yeah, moved it.
yes, I came up from under, well, yeah, I also came up from under council
Right.
and went up under city administrator.
So then it split from one Department of Public Safety to three completely separate entities. All right, so Mel right now hires and fires police chief,
Correct.
ESU director?
Correct.
Okay, and you don't really have anything to do with fire, but, okay, because that's a volunteer thing. Okay, so are you proposing that we put it under department, go back to department? Okay,
No.
not personally. Okay.
Why
But
did you
just,
bring me up first? On hiring fire.
You're so sensitive.
Because you're at the city at the
That's
end
a-
of the
You are
road.
so sensitive.
Are we ready for?
Fires everybody.
Except for
The
me.
fire budget is a
Yeah, he
very,
doesn't hire
very
fire,
small
right.
budget. It's only about $35,000.
Yes.
So we're gonna combine
The
it?
ESU budget is where the money's at.
Which, yeah.
We did that last year by creating a larger and bigger ESU because your husband's sick a lot.
I'm sorry.
Because
why?
what?
I just threw your.
This, but the combination, one of the big benefits would be, we now have a paid firefighter on call all the time. Because if we make ESC and fire one and make them have to be trained, we have somebody there. Anyway, general maintenance.
I just think it's a good idea.
Are we combining it then?
I'll combine it to next budget. You're gonna see one budget. That's
Okay with
gonna be.
that?
That's fine,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Well, we are good with that. Okay.
General maintenance. Salaries, overtime, taxes, retirement, health insurance, workers' comp.
Okay, so employees for general maintenance.
Tommy Davis, R.D. Young.
Tommy, RD.
That's it.
Oh, that's it?
All right. Repairs and maintenance goes from 2,500 to 20,000. Whoa, why? Because we're going to invest 17,500 into maintaining our buildings and infrastructure. This comes back to Mr. Tindler's
Good.
thing where we need to start budgeting money so we can fix things. There it is. $17,500.
And that's any building.
Anything general maintenance related.
Okay.
Police department too?
General maintenance.
But this number's a swag,
Is a what?
swag,
What do you mean?
I guess.
Yeah.
This is a guess. This
Yes,
is, yeah.
Swag.
Next budget, we will have a much better idea of what it should be. Right now, we're shooting in the dark because we've never done it.
You've never had anything in there.
So basically 17,500 is 17,000 to maintain our stuff that we've never had.
And try to keep it from getting in the shape that it is in now.
Yes.
That's the plan. Let's
I'm
actually
work-
take care of what we have.
If the council approves this number, I'm gonna watch this number very closely. We're not going to buy something out of this fund that ain't supposed to be going.
You're not buying equipment, you're
No, this is
repairing.
strictly building
This is a
maintenance,
maintenance fund.
infrastructure maintenance.
Who would approve this? Mel?
Ultimately goes to me first.
Repairs and maintenance.
There we go.
But but the council signs the checks, and we certainly can.
And you
look.
see every, yep. All right, operating supplies, we brought up 500 just because they've been spending more than usual. Uniform stays the same. Uniform contract, while we're here and it's time, we're gonna get into it with everyone. Our uniform contract, I believe, expires next
May
spring,
of 2017.
and I think the intent is to abolish it.
The intent from talking with all the guys, and the intent with talking among our staff members, is that it's time to get away from a uniform company and have some sort of uniform allowance so that the guys get their own clothes.
Wash their own
And wash
clothes.
their own clothes and make sure they're in good shape and
But there'd be a uniform clothing.
allowance.
Yeah, we
Design?
issue it to them.
There would be, yeah, we would say this is what.
Everybody wear the same
You couldn't just
t-shirt.
go get whatever you wanted. I mean,
Oh,
right.
everything,
We would issue the
you see
uniform
the
stuff.
sanitation guys with the lime green shirts on, that's what we want to go to, high visibility, that's what you would see. Is a
The uniform contract we have is
But
ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's a nightmare.
This
So-
is the Airmark bill.
Yes, it
It's
needs to go
ridiculous.
away. We need to issue, buy them for whatever, issue them and be done with it. You maintain it, you do whatever, you get so many a year and move on. Quit
Yeah.
this contract. All right, that's gonna come up on all of these, you're gonna see uniforms. It's significant, it's gonna be high, but hopefully it goes away after this next year. And then fuels and lubricants, just brought that one up to $300. All right, that one's easy. Next page. Road and Street.
Hey, are we gonna take a break anytime soon?
I'd like a lunch break. but I don't-
Pizza's coming any minute.
Yeah.
Oh, I just have a lot.
It's up to you guys. I mean, we're about halfway,
A halfway?
maybe a little over, but
Well,
remember there's
geez.
capital at the end. Keep trucking?
Well, I don't know.
Not if we're
Quarter to
halfway.
12.
can we-
If I hadn't run 5 miles this morning, I wouldn't be as hungry as I
Oh,
am.
my gosh. Give
My
me
disc
a
ends in 6
break.
minutes.
All right, 6 minutes.
We'll give you 6 minutes.
6 minutes.
I think we got a vote on this. Do we need to vote on taking lunch?
6,
No, we probably need to take a break.
All right, let me
We
get
got
through
a
Road
lot
and
to
Street
get
and we're gonna
through
stop.
Today,
Okay, we're,
just stop.
oh, stop now?
Yeah, I mean,
He wants 6 minutes.
we want 6 minutes.
Well,
and
that's, I mean, he
change
doesn't
his
have to
days.
have 6 minutes.
We'll give you
For
6
6
minutes.
minutes.
Okay.
In lieu of a raise.
I'll get through Road and Street.
how many are in roads and streets?
This is 3 employees,
3.
2 seasonal, just like last year. We lost a couple of employees that have been here a while, so that's what the, actual salaries went down. The pay rate changed with new employees, so that's less.
So we have 3 full-time and then 2 seasonal.
Yep. And the health insurance election also changes because of shifting of employees. Getting down into the expense line item, I believe the only change is under rentals and leases, and we budget nothing, and we changed it to 20,000. That is the long reach, that is the ditch cleaning, that is all of that
That's
equipment.
just the ditch clean, not the long range.
Yeah, not the long
Now
range.
stuff, but.
If we need to rent equipment, that is what that is for.
This is for, that's for ditch cleaning. That
This
we-
is simply for planning ahead.
Uh-huh.
It's something we've never done before, but we've always had to rent some sort of piece of equipment. It's not necessarily just for ditch cleaning, it's
Oh.
for whatever we may need.
But that's renting whatever kind of equipment that we need. Well, we do need to keep our ditches cleaned out, so.
That just depends on how serious we want to get about it. We tried to
Okay.
do it not that long ago.
Okay.
It could be for a tractor.
And that was a fast 6 minutes, but that's all Road and Street.
That was fast 6 minutes.
Well, you increased repairs and maintenance from 15, no, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry, okay.
Oh, no, capital's on the list.
So we'll come back and start canal?
Yes.
And how long, what's your plan for time?
45 minutes.
12:30?
Yeah, 12:30.
Be back at
30
12:30?
minutes?
45, about 45, about 12:30.
Perfect.
Okay.
Jerry's buying it.
This is actually going really well, so we're accomplishing, so I'm excited.
Does that mean we can't eat lunch together?
Just don't talk about the budget.
Just